just said. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, welcome to Taco Tuesday. Taco Tuesday, baby. Hit me some of that.
But more importantly, y'all know what today is, right? It's Taco
Tuesday. Yeah, there it is. Taco Tuesday. I mean, you're hearing it right there from Speedy Gonzalez himself. So, yeah, welcome to it. Welcome to it. And that would be JP pushing buttons on the board. Hey, man, how you doing?
I'm great now and kind of want tacos. Just a little bit.
All right. So you've lived here long enough. Have you figured out your go-to places for different kinds of food yet?
I have. I tried to stick away from the fast food, stuff.
Sure.
However, God, what was the name of the one Mexican restaurant I went to that one time? Southside.
Yeah. Over in Mi Casita.
Yes. That is very good Mexican food right there, I have to say. So
it was. So sooner or later, and we're giving free stuff here, you need to go to Hector's Kitchen.
Hector's Kitchen,
hole in the wall, Colombian Mexican mix.
Hole in the walls are the best Mexican places.
Listen, go get you a rice bowl with plantains and pork.
Oh, that sounds good.
Oh my gosh. All right. Hey, listen, we got a great show laid on. Now that we're all hungry, got a great show laid on for you. Coming up today, no guests, just lots of content. I need to be able to unpack some things with you. So that being said, Triple Dipper, hit it, man.
The Triple Dipper. 3 stories you've got to know.
That's right, the Triple Dipper, 3 stories, 3 themes, if you will, that you got to know as we run today's show. First out the gate, in conjunction with my monologue, you're going to hear about it. We're going to talk about Remember Abbey Gate. I mean, it ought to be a battle cry. Remember Abbey Gate. The bombing at Abbey Gate was 4 years ago today. 13 service members died. Abbey Gate, never forget, always remember. That's number 1 on the Triple Dipper. Number 2, didn't get to it yesterday because I had to duck out early, but yeah, we're going to talk about it. The cracked barrel. The cracked barrel, y'all. Cracker Barrel. Let's talk about a self-inflicted series of wounds. It's like one thing after another. So yeah, the cracked barrel is number 2 on the Triple Dipper. And the number 3, didn't get to it yesterday also, but that's okay because I got more to even add to it today. So military-minded, all you green suitors and DOD civilians and folks who have a love for the military in general, just stay tuned. We're going to talk about several things that may be of interest to you. Number 3 on the Triple Dipper, military-minded. All right, let me jump on into today's Rightside Way opening monologue. I'll remind you guys that attorney Stan McDonald, partner at the law firm of Wilmer & Lee, a 30-year veteran in the practice of law, a longtime conservative. He is indeed the daily sponsor of the Rightside Way monologue, and I'll tell you more about Stan here momentarily. All right, let me just say, there are some days when you get news that sets in hard. I mean, so much so that you can remember where you were when you heard it. 4 years ago today, I was prepping my show, and I had a notion about what I would talk about in my opening monologue, and then it happened. It happened. The news brought word of an unspeakable tragedy. I sent out a very short tweet that same morning, and all my tweet said at the time was, I haven't felt like this since 9/11. And that was true. Today marks the 4th anniversary of the most heinous of crimes, the most callous and reckless disregard for security, and the flashpoint for foreign policy that set the U.S. backward 20 years on the world stage. 4 years ago today, the Biden administration was determined to end the war in Afghanistan, not because they should, not because they could, but just because they wanted to be different than Trump. We know that Biden was desperate for the symbolic withdrawal from Afghanistan to be completed by 20th anniversary of 9/11. Just going to do it. Look, never tell the enemy what your mark on the calendar is. You only tell the enemy what your goals are, and that you will be there pounding them into submission until your goals are met. But no, not Biden. Biden went ahead and announced a date. And so without a plan, without a defense posture, with complete disregard for the security of our troops, our allies, and our friends, the Biden administration abandoned Bagram Air Base in the dark of night, literally. Biden abandoned the prison at Bagram that held so many Taliban extremists, and the enemy quickly came and set all the prisoners free to return to the battlefield. And the Biden team left behind $1 billion in military equipment and weaponry for the Taliban. They abandoned upwards of 1,000 U.S. citizens or green card holders, and they forced the remaining U.S. troops, who were now in even smaller numbers, to retreat to an unfortified civilian airport in the middle of a crowded city. Thousands of Afghans panicked and made a run for the airport in Kabul. Hysteria set in, As people rushed to the airfield and began clinging to U.S. Air Force planes, we watched on the news as they fell to their deaths. It was awful. And on today's date, a suicide bomber 4 years ago today walked into the crowded area outside of the Abbey gate of Kabul airport and detonated himself. 13 U.S. service members were killed, 45 wounded, over 100 Afghan civilians died in the melee. Small arms fire broke out as the attackers made recovery of the dead and wounded even more difficult. And days later, the flag-draped coffins came off the plane as Joe Biden looked absent-mindedly at his watch like he had someplace better to be. The bombing at Abbey Gate actually marked the worst loss of life for U.S. forces in over a decade. And we know now that the suicide bomber was actually one of the prisoners that was set free from the Bagram prison that Biden had just left unguarded a few days before. Well, like many of our listeners, I'm a veteran of Afghanistan myself. I was there when the war was just starting. I served on a small special operations team living among the Afghan people for nearly a year. And while I was there was a sense of mission. There was. Somebody show me what to do, point me in the right direction, I will go there. Don't let me miss it. Somebody had to do something, right? Post 9/11. Well, I'll do it. Just tell me where and how. But 4 years ago today, it was as if everything we had done, all the good that we had accomplished, all the blood and treasure spent were somehow squandered and cast aside like pearls before swine. Look, no war should last forever. It shouldn't. But every soldier should know that those who sent them to war would also honor their service and appreciate their sacrifice. And when Joe Biden looked down at his watch while the flag-draped coffins came off that plane, when General Milley kept his job, when parents of the dead and wounded received no support, well, y'all, that was a dark day that was made even darker because so many of us felt like a part of us was left there at the Abbey gate. But yesterday, in a move that was characteristic for the current administration, President Donald Trump actually decided to right the wrongs to the extent that he can. In a ceremony at the Oval Office on Monday, Trump invited Gold Star families to be there when he signed the 4th anniversary of the attack at Abbey Gate 2025 proclamation. He said it was way past time that these families and their loved ones were honored, and yes, it was. Trump said that we are, quote, 4 years into this nightmare and that it was high time for people who served in the Biden era to be held accountable for the disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan. Trump said as commander-in-chief, he will, quote, never allow our military service members to be so betrayed, our friends to be so abandoned, and our credibility to be so destroyed. The proclamation that he signed yesterday, it read in part, as our nation solemnly marks 4 years since the attack on Abbey Gate, we honor the memory of the 13 brave souls and every military service member to ever die in the line of duty, and we renew our resolve to protect American lives, defend American interests, and uphold American sovereignty. It's a great proclamation. Well, just like that, on that morning 4 years ago, I felt like I was in need of a mission. Someone tell me what to do and I'll do it. I believe the bombing at Abbey Gate was one of the greatest moments of crisis of our decade. Well, Trump's ceremony yesterday, though, is partly symbolic, and I get that. But it established that sense of duty that I'm talking about, that sense of mission, one that I know many of you share because that's the kind of people you are. Duty, that feeling of an obligation, a debt that's owed and never fully repaid. It's a sense of maintaining our national honor, of not allowing someone else, much less a rogue group of violent, backward-thinking, hairy-knuckled misogynists, not allowing them or anyone else to dictate our reputation on the world stage. You see, our honor is of our making. It's a sacred matter not to be taken lightly, because this is our country. This is our home, our refuge. This is a place where the sweat of our brow and the work of our hands has forged a future for our kids. Our country where the generations before us labored and fought and loved and laughed to form a more perfect union. We're talking about duty, honor, and country. Far more than just a phrase. Far more than anything the Biden administration could ever figure out. It's not some melodramatic intonation of old school promises. It's real to the vast majority of Americans. I mean, sure, the network news wants you to believe that things like critical race theory and Antifa and white supremacists and Black Lives Matter, that all of those and those fringe elements like them are the core systems somehow of who we are. In some way, they're the true nature of who we are. No, they most certainly are not. The core of our citizenry actually recognize the value of our national heritage. The vast majority of Americans will still fly the flag, stand for the anthem, and volunteer for the cause. Duty, honor, and country. General Douglas MacArthur, he elaborated on those three concepts in an iconic speech at West Point in 1962. In one segment, he said this. He said those three words, quote, symbolize a great moral code a code of conduct and chivalry of those who guard this beloved land of culture and ancient descent. Duty, honor, country, he said. Those three hallowed words reverently dictate what you ought to be, what you can be, what you will be. They are your rallying point to build courage when courage seems to fail, to regain faith when there seems to be little cause for faith, to create hope when hope becomes forlorn. The unbelievers will say they are but words, but a slogan, but a flamboyant phrase, but they actually build your basic character. They mold you for your future, he said, roles as the custodians of the nation's defense. They make you strong enough to know when you're weak and brave enough to face yourself when you're afraid. That's why I have the audience that I have, by the way. That's why you are who you are, of all ages, of every demographic, people who embrace the ideas of duty, honor, and country. We hold these concepts as real. They are a part of who we are. That's why yesterday's ceremony in the Oval Office was so important. It was a statement. It was a needed word. It was an acknowledgement. It was a level of appreciation that had been lacking. It was an indication that the duty and the honor of those men and women who died that day would not be forgotten. Look, we still have the capability as a nation, the full capability, as a military, to fully engage this process, to reestablish who we are on the world stage. Make America great again, that's more than a slogan. It's a creed. It's a way of life. It's a rallying cry. And look, I'm no rocket scientist. I mean, militarily, I'm just an old colonel, a salty old ranger who still tries daily to beat back the ravages of time, pops another Tylenol when it catches up on me. But I can see a few things, even from this side of the far horizon. I can see the need for accountability still even 4 years later. Why? Because it's about duty, honor, and country. It's about caring for those who go to hard places and do the hard things so that back home we don't have to. It's about being there for our friends, standing with our allies, and never accepting defeat. And yes, it's also about accountability, because accountability actually restores confidence. Accountability for those who made tragic and unfounded decisions that cost so many lives that day and squandered so much victory. If we do anything less, then we will have handed our honor to those who have little regard for it. Duty, honor, and country. It is far more than a series of words. The president was right to issue that proclamation yesterday. He was right to gather with the Gold Star moms and dads. I say, remember Abbey Gate. And that's a wrap for the Rightside Way. Yeah, remember Abbey Gate. I mean, make that a rallying cry. It's like remember the Alamo. Remember the Abbey Gate. Because there were indeed 13 service members killed, 45 more wounded, over 100 Afghan civilians. And the guy who did it was let out of the prison that Biden left unguarded just 3 or 4 days before that. Think about that. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. Dad in 2004. It was my second deployment. It's hard to believe I've already been home now for 21 years from my second deployment in the global war on terror. That tells you how old I am. My daughter, Caitlin, and my son-in-law are up there running sound for the live stream. But Caitlin can speak to what it was like for me being gone, just like boom, boom, back to back. Started off the war in Afghanistan, initially riding horses on a small team in the middle of nowhere, and then came home, and I wasn't even home a year, and I immediately deployed again and spent all of 2004 in Baghdad. And aside from combat operations and all the things we had going on, part of my job was to help this new thing called democracy get started. And y'all, it was amazing to be in a place where people had no idea what self-determination was. I thought I appreciated my vote before I went over there. My dad had run for office at one point when I was younger. I had always voted. I'd never missed a vote. I liked democracy. I was always a Republican. And then I went to a situation where no one had any idea what self-determination was. Not a lick. I'm talking about Saddam Hussein when he took power. He took power. You were not allowed to own a car if the Ba'ath Party hadn't decided you were okay to own a car. That's why there were so few gas stations in Baghdad, which is crazy. A city of 5 million people. It dawned on me one day, there's no gas stations anywhere when no one had a car, unless you were approved. Schools were approved and you could go if you could. There were so many things in life, the minutia of life was so controlled, and yet they had no say in who controlled it, not a lick. We may think once in a while that we get frustrated with our politics. I'll be honest with you, we still got it better than huge swaths of the world.
I tell people as an attorney, I tell people when I'm talking to them and they're a new jury, I'll tell them, I said, you don't understand the value of your position as a juror. You are the arbiter of the facts. People around this world have no respect for the rule of law, but we sit in a room where we have the right to a trial by jury of our peers. And that's you. And I tell the jury that. I will say the same thing to you as voters. What we do in our country is largely determined on what you guys determine as voters. And I don't care whether it's dog catcher or president of the free world. The reality is that vote matters. So I had this experience in 2004. Aside from combat ops and all the things that were going on, the craziness, part of my job wound up having me interact with what was called the DAC, the District Advisory Council, which in essence was the very first ever city council in Baghdad in anyone's memory. These were people elected by their various districts and neighborhoods to represent them and to give them some measure of a voice. And I went to a meeting once, and I got to tell you, this was no small thing. These guys were serving. And while I was there, I got pretty tight with several of them. One of them was a man by the name of Sheikh Majid. The other was a Dr. Abdul Khatam. And they were actually the chair and vice chair of this DAC that I worked with. Sheikh Majid was assassinated. And Dr. Khatam barely survived an assassination attempt, but he was never the same. He was not able to return to the council. But at one point, I was at a meeting where they were both still active, and we're sitting there, and I still carry a picture around with me a lot. And that picture shows this group of men sitting at a table. It's kind of an innocuous little picture. It doesn't look like much. It's just a guy sitting at a table. But I took that picture right after something happened. We're sitting there, and somebody on the council and my interpreter's on the side kind of whispering to me what it is they're saying. And I'm sitting in the back of the room as an advisor. And my interpreter says, sir, they've just mentioned that apparently so-and-so on the council has resigned his position because his family was threatened. They have a vacancy on the council. So they talked among themselves for a minute. And then somebody said, I believe that we're allowed to nominate a replacement. Well, the whole room got like, I mean, it looked heavy. And Dr. Khatam, as chair of the council, looked in the back, and myself and my battalion commander were sitting there, Lieutenant Colonel Sexton, and he says, Colonel Sexton, what do you think? And I'll never forget this. My boss, Colonel Sexton, goes, it's your council. Well, then we will take nominations, says Dr. Khatam. And some names came out, and then somebody else says, I believe we're supposed to vote. It was an alien moment for them, y'all. It was. And so I'm sitting there watching, and I'm thinking, and my first thought was, what are they? Oh, they used to be killed for this kind of stuff. They just had a guy who quit because his family was being threatened. And now they're
And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid conservative, just plain right. Like saving the world one soundbite at a time. Hey, I got to tell you real quick about attorney Stan McDonald. Before I do, I'll tell you real quick about the text line number, 833-687-4448. That's 833-68-RIGHT. Text it, call it. We want your input. So, yeah, come on with it. Attorney Stan McDonald. He is your daily sponsor of the Rightside Way monologue. So Stan McDonald, partner at the law firm of Wilmer and Lee up in Huntsville. He's a 30-year veteran in the practice of law. And I like to say that not only is Stan the kind of guy who can advocate for your legal needs pretty darn well, but, oh, by the way, he's also a longtime conservative. He's an OG ruffian from way on back. So, yes, you need an attorney, Stan McDonald. He has represented his clients in like literally thousands of real estate transactions over the years. He knows how to represent you in any local, state, or federal court. I always say, if Stan McDonald's on your side, you're going to have no greater friend. Likewise, your adversaries would have no greater foe. So you may want to get in touch with him. If you need an attorney in North Alabama, here's his phone number. You ready? Attorney Stan McDonald. The law firm is Wilmer and Lee. He's an America First family man. The phone number is 256-479-3020. That's Stan McDonald, 479-3020. Tell him you heard about it on Rightside Radio. And no representation made the quality legal services is any bad thing at all. Just saying. Let me get some of these text messages. David at Bucky's. David must have seen yesterday's show, like playing just for a second during a break, or maybe clicked on the wrong one. He goes, Phil, love your shirt. I have one. My wife makes me wear it. And then I was like, okay, it's a nice plaid shirt. But he goes, oh, I just saw you wearing an Auburn shirt. That was what my previous message was referring to. What do you mean your wife makes you wear it? Come on, man. Nofri from Lexington says, all Cracker Barrel had to do was nothing. Every store had a 45-minute wait. This Bud Light is for you, you morons. He's not wrong. It's totally self-inflicted. Totally.
Yeah. And even what they did with the peg game, like you were telling me about.
Oh, my gosh. I'll get into that in a minute. Well, now that you've raised it, I'll tell you now.
Yeah.
So the peg game, everybody knows the peg game, right? The little triangle with the golf tees that you try to jump them and get down to where you hopefully have more than one, no more than one.
Yeah.
And it would have these little things on there saying, if you leave two, I'm making it up. But it was like, if you leave two, you're pretty smart. If you leave three, you're like an idiot or something like that. If you leave four, you're an ignoramus is what it said. Now they have now changed it, softened the language. So if you leave four, don't be embarrassed. Just try again. But they also spelled embarrass wrong on it.
Yeah. So it used to be leave one, you're a genius. Leave two, you're pretty smart. Leave three, you're just plain dumb. Leave four or more, you just plain ignoramus.
Yeah, ignoramus.
But then yeah, like you said, leave two, rocking the chair, but not the game. Leave three, no need to be embarrassed. Try again.
That's all it says now.
Yeah,
that is so awful. I mean, it's like they're just so scared of. We don't want to offend anybody. When they have cry rooms next, what are they going to do?
Everybody gets a participation trophy for trying the peg game.
Hey, sure.
You tried the peg game. Here's a free biscuit or something. Yeah.
I heard their biscuits are going downhill too.
Apparently everything's going downhill.
I just don't understand it. They broke something that wasn't broken at all. All they had to do was go back to getting the portions back to where people felt like they were getting their money's worth, and keep the menu where it was and increase customer service. That's all they had to do.
Yeah, the answer was not. I think the only reason people were still going there is because of the atmosphere.
Yeah,
the paintings, the Southern hospitality. So it's like they're making it worse.
And I'll say this: I get they wanted to brighten things up a little bit. They could have done that without doing the complete redo. I mean, it wasn't necessary. I mean, if maybe they want to make some of the brown walls lighter shade. I get it. Go for it. But they just went in there and goes, let's change everything, including the logo, even the menu. Let's serve alcohol. What else can we do? I don't know. Pride flags. Awesome. Oh, by the way, change the peg game. Come on. Cracker Barrel. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back.
Again, to put somebody else in the position of being threatened. And I'll never forget this. They called for the vote, and Dr. Kotami called for the vote. And by a show of hands, and my interpreter's telling me what he's saying, and the hands began to go up, and I swear it's almost like the hands were going up while they sat lower in their seats. And he counted the vote, and he goes, well, then so-and-so shall join the council. And all of a sudden, every one of the men on that council, like 12 of them, they started laughing and clapping. It was this sense of relief. It was this sense of we just did something, and they were really excited. And I'm sitting there thinking, that looked like something you and I would do every other day of the week. I mean, how many times have we been to a meeting? Who wants to do so-and-so? I do. Who's again? I ain't doing that. We do that thing on a regular basis. They had no basis of reality, though, to compare to. In fact, for them, it was potentially under threat of death. And a month later, Sheikh Majid was dead. We have no idea what it means to have this right of self-determination and self-governance and the ability to vote for a candidate. I say all that to say that while it's also unique in Western society for us to have that, it is also absolutely 100% something we should never take for granted. That's why it's so important that we should choose our candidates and choose them wisely. I would say choose them prayerfully. I would also say choose them judiciously. Don't just allow anybody else to walk in and be a candidate. At the same time, everybody should have the opportunity to want to be a candidate. Does that make sense? Everybody should have the right to run for office. Every one of you should have a right to say whether they should or not. And we should all be a part of that process. Because there are people in this world who still die because They just want self-determination. I watched it firsthand. At the end of my tour, I came home in late '04, and it was a rough year. Lost several great guys in my unit, and I came home appreciative more of what it meant to be home. But close to the end of my tour, I went back to meet with the DAC, the district council again. And I gave them my goodbyes. And I still have on my shelf just like a handwritten certificate that was in kind of cryptic English because they was not their first language. And it said, like, owing to the gratitude that we have for you these days, you know, that kind of thing. And it's signed by Dr. Cottom. But as we finished our meeting, I told them, I said, there will be a day when your children will look in their history books at school and your names will be in it and you will be called heroes. Because you stood up. Because you said, we'll do that thing that people will kill us for because it's really, really important. We're not under threat of death here. I mean, Trump took a round of the ear, but that's rare, right? Generally speaking, we expect to have people run for office. And we expect to be allowed to run if we want to, if we qualify. And we expect, oh, by the way, for people to vote. And we expect not to have our vote curtailed. We expect our vote to be counted. That's the beauty of where we live. It absolutely is. And I hate the fact that it took me going to war to gain that level of appreciation for it. But it did. And I'm forever grateful. And to this day, I still count Dr. Cottom as somebody who I would love to see again if he's still alive. I have no idea.
Jump in and say one of the big news stories of the day, obviously, has been the effort by the Trump administration to negotiate an end to the war in Ukraine. And it's a valiant effort. And I don't believe that any other world leader could make it happen. But the fact that we're here at all right now is incredible. I mean, there are some who believe the war would be over in days. And as time passed by, there are those who believed it might never end. But something that must be addressed, though, are the reasons why it started. And no, I don't mean all of the geopolitical premises. I don't mean the cultural and historical tensions between Ukraine and Russia. I don't mean the demographics. I don't mean the economies of Russia and Ukraine. Those are all important. Hey, all you Rightside ruffians out there, you are listening to Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. Just covering down on some major ground across the Southeast US of A. Y'all talk about this show. This show, I mean, it goes, y'all, from like Huntsville back over to Chattanooga. I'm talking about from Tuscaloosa back over to Gadsden. I mean, all the way down to that loveliest little village on the plains we call Auburn, straight across the line from there to now what we call, once again, Fort Benning. And then big old patches in North Georgia and Mississippi all thrown in just for good measure. And that's just the radio. Then there's all y'all in the whole wide world going to the World Wide Web and live streaming the show. Live streaming, looking in on the studio, live streaming from places like X and YouTube and Rumble and Facebook and our website, rightsidemedia.org. And then you podcasters who catch it after the fact too. Listen, bottom line is wherever you catch the show, whenever you catch the show, thank you very much for catching the show. It means the world to us that you're there. You're the only reason why we do what we do. So thank you very much. So I had a very cool thing happen today. It's interesting that I'm talking about Afghanistan with the Abbey Gate situation, which I'm going to dive into my dipper here in a minute. But out of the blue, so y'all have heard me say I'm a veteran of Afghanistan myself. I was there at the beginning of the war on a small team out in the middle of nowhere. It was my civil affairs team and a special forces team, and we were it. And we lived among the Afghan people together for the better part of a year. Well, that's been a while. That's been a hot minute. And out of the blue, the special forces team leader that I was with, his name's Don. Don texted me this just like 2 days ago and said, "Hey, Phil, don't you live in the Gadsden area?" I said, "Don, I do. Where are you?" And he said he's in Tennessee and he was coming down this way. Wondered if he could stop in. We spent an hour and a half this morning just shooting the breeze, catching up with each other. and just loving the fact that we had reconnected. So, there's something about guys you served with, especially I'm just in the crucible, I guess. That's different. We hadn't seen each other in, a lot of years, and just kind of picked up where we left off. Just thoroughly enjoyed it. But anyway, yeah, just a blessing. A lot to be said for having guys you serve with and then popping in on each other when you can. We got a few text messages. Roger from Madison says, "Duty, honor, country." Have these words tattooed on my right arm. Outstanding. Good to hear, man. Adam from Athens says, "Great monologue, Phil. Also, Dale Jackson challenged you to the JFK Jr. physical fitness test this morning. I say you can take him. I say I can take him. I also noticed that Dale didn't challenge me personally. That's just, a thing. I'm just saying." He just said Adam as a proxy, I guess.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. By the way, speaking of that challenge, the 100 push-up, 50 pull-up challenge, I saw something about, was it the New York
Times?
New York Times saying scientists are warning you not to take place in this dangerous.
This could be dangerous.
It's like, wait a second. You're telling me that exercise is hard? That's mind-blowing revelation. Yeah.
You know what, though? I feel certain that the article was written by somebody who couldn't do the challenge.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Now, are we talking about the one that said, was it 100 push-ups
Yeah.
and 50 pull-ups within 10 minutes?
Yes. That, which, by the way, is very hard. I mean, our RFK and Pete Hegseth did it in like 5 or 6 minutes. That's incredible. And RFK did it in jeans too, by the way, blue jeans.
Yeah, he always does it in jeans. So I haven't done pull-ups in forever. I can't tell you when. I mean, push-ups I do all the time. And like, I'll do my sets. I'll do a set of 50, then I'll do a set of 35, then I'll do a set of 30, and I'll do it. And so I could knock out 100 push-ups in a few minutes, but
the 50 pull-ups is hard.
Pull-ups, man, that's a thing.
Especially the taller and bigger you are, the harder it is to. Yeah,
there's a lot of me to pull up.
It's not easy. Yeah,
I'm 6'2", 220. Dadgummit. Comes in handy sometimes.
Yeah.
But not when you're doing pull-ups.
Yeah, not doing pull-ups.
Clint from Tony says, "Phil, the downright anti-American antics of the previous administration, like COVID, I fear will have ripple effects for our country far into the future." Clint, I agree, man. Listen, I think that pretty much daily, the Trump administration is dealing with some things that are new and going forward, but also I think a lot of it is just fixing what the Biden administration was breaking and trying to put it back on track. John from Harvest says, "Phil, good monologue. Yeah, the incompetent pullout of a Bagram still pisses me off." He says, "We should have kept Bagram as a strategic presence in the region." I completely agree. I mean, look at Germany, look at Italy, look at Japan, look at South Korea. We tend to wind up setting up favorable basing opportunities. And by the way, we don't stay there for free. We pay rent. I think the only one that we may have claimed that we're just still using of our own is Guantanamo Bay. I could be wrong, but my understanding is we tend to be like major contributors to the local economy when we set up a base in a country at which we are formerly at war, and we're still there. And being in Europe is a good thing right now, and being in Japan is a good thing right now. That forward presence on the world stage. Well, Biden, when he was pulling out of Bagram, he did it in the dark of night, by the way. Literally, like the Afghan National Army force that was there woke up to find out the Americans had left during the night and left them alone, and they were shocked. They had no word that was going to happen. I understand OPSEC. I understand not giving away some information, but you know what? At some point, you also recognize you do have allies, and all you did was just leave them this sense that you didn't care in the first place. It was just weird. Pulled out in the dark of night and left Bagram, which is defendable, which is filled with infrastructure that we built. God, when I got to Bagram in the beginning of the war, it was nothing but tent city and moon dust. That's all it was. And there was an old Soviet airstrip that we were using. And we built that place. We built hard stands. We built, everything from, we were just short of having a golf course. The place was robust. And it had walls all the way around it. It had guard shacks and overwatch positions. It had clear fields of fire outside the wire. And what they do, they shut it down, and they made what remaining troops were there, who were too small to then guard Bagram, to have to go into Kabul in the middle of a massive populated city into an urban airport that was not set up for defense. and do the best they could. And it was a complete debacle. Oh, you're not just getting me started. I mean, it's a whole dipper. I'm going to be doing this for a little while. John from Huntsville says, Phil, spectacular monologue. Also, did you hear that Donald Trump says he wants the old Cracker Barrel logo back? By the way, JP, did you hear that Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift announced their engagement? Are you a Swiftie?
No. And how could I miss it? If I saw one more post about it, I was going to gouge my eyeballs out. I couldn't not miss it.
Just poke me in the eye with a sharp stick.
It's everywhere. It's very annoying.
Yeah. Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift. All the Swifties are talking. Oh my gosh. TL from Huntsville says, what? He says, oh no, are they out? Are we having trouble with our VNN station?
They AM, yeah.
All right, Huntsville station, we're checking on it. Thanks, TL, appreciate it. John from Rossville, Georgia says, Colonel Phil, I was 4F having failed 2 physicals. Man, I'm sorry. He said, so I can't identify with your excellent military service. Well, okay, thank you, sir. But listen, anyway, he said, shouldn't we be calling the Afghanistan withdrawal actually a surrender? Weren't the troops ordered to throw down their arms and run away? What would you call it? And are those responsible not eligible for some type of court martial? Your thoughts are heard by many here in North Georgia. John from Rossville. John, thank you so much. So was it a retreat? No. It in some ways it felt like it. But the reality was it was just a bungled operation. It defied all of the standards for successful military defense. It just did. There was no force protection. There was not a patch of ground we were trying to preserve. They had the inability to prevent loss of life. They did not have clear fields of fire. The rules of engagement were muddled. Everything about it was just jacked up like a jack's hind leg. So what it basically means is there should have been people court-martialed, at the very least relieved. Absolutely. But the troops didn't retreat. Marcus from Huntsville, the texts are going crazy today. Marcus from Huntsville says, this is awesome. You recently linked up with an old battle buddy. Said a few weeks ago, an old platoon sergeant of mine that moved to Athens reached out and we had lunch in downtown Huntsville. That was the first time we seen each other in, I believe, 18 years. Yeah, you know what? So Don and I saw each other briefly, I think when I was at the Pentagon in 2009, but even then, that means that's the only time we've seen each other since 2002 when we served together in Afghanistan. Still very cool. David at Bucky says, Phil, Dale's challenge to you was against Yaffe. Dale's challenge was against you and Yaffe.
You against Yaffe.
Dale's challenge was you against Yaffe. Is that what he says?
I guess so. We may have to live stream this.
This could be a thing. Dave from Capshaw says, did you see the video of Mandami? I did. Oh, lifting weight.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was rather silly. I felt it was, yeah. You know what? Beta males should not prove their beta maleness.
He couldn't even do 1 rep of 135 unassisted. I was doing 135 for reps when I was like 13. Like, I feel like, and most males were like, that is common. So yeah, it was embarrassing.
Yeah. That's the place you went for your warm-ups.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Tom with all the kids in Huntsville says, I took my company command in Bagram, and it was 3 times the size when I left in 2021. There was a plan in place to hold the country with minimal support, and it still breaks my heart. Yeah, Tom, you're right, man. Thanks for your service, by the way. And you are spot on, brother. All right, we're taking a break right now. We'll take that break. We'll come right back. I'll dive right in. I got some information on this whole situation with remembering Abbey Gate. I got some stuff you might want to know. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back.
That in 2004.
But those were not the straw that broke the camel's back. That proverbial camel's back. Those were longstanding factors, yes. And I submit to you, though, that every war has longstanding factors that steeped over time and simmering below the surface actually pop up sometimes and create the war. But pretty much every war also has a flashpoint that kicks it off. A moment in time that told everyone that the hinge point had been reached. And the war in Ukraine is no different. And the flashpoint I'm talking about, it happened exactly 4 years ago this week. A flashpoint that was actually somewhere else, but it sent shockwaves around the world. I submit to you, hear me when I say it, I submit to you that the flashpoint that gave Putin the clarity he needed to make the final call to cross the line from peace to war was the Biden administration's debacle of a pullout from Afghanistan that occurred 4 years ago this week. That's right. 4 years ago this week was when the airstrip at Kabul airport was overrun by desperate Afghan citizens panicking because Joe Biden was abandoning everything and everyone. And we watched in horror as Afghan men clung to the sides of U.S. Air Force cargo planes and fell to their deaths as they took off. It was shocking. It was awful. It was a sign that the U.S. was, at that point, not a nation operating at strength. We were without care for the fates of other people. And just a few days later, 4 years from next Tuesday, a suicide bomber blew himself up at the Abbey gate entrance to the Kabul airport and killed 13 U.S. service members and over 100 Afghan citizens. And I'm telling you right now, Putin knew then that the U.S. under Joe Biden would never say a word if he launched his attack. And within 2 months, Putin began massing his troops and posturing for war. Afghanistan was the flashpoint that launched the war in Ukraine, in my opinion. But let's talk about flashpoints because, yeah, flashpoints happen. They do. And how they are handled makes all the difference. In foreign policy, a flashpoint refers to a specific location or situation where tensions between two nations or groups are high and could easily escalate into violence. It's a critical juncture where a seemingly minor or even seemingly unrelated incident could trigger a major crisis or even a war. But to give you an idea of what it's like to deal with a flashpoint moment, we have to talk a little history. We have to tell a few stories. Man, I got a doozy for you today. You see, throughout history, there have been numerous flashpoints, those singular acts or moments in time that have drawn the U.S. into conflict, and some, though, that have been stared down and dealt with effectively. It's a question of leadership. The kickoff to World War I was the single assassination of Serbian Archduke Ferdinand. The entrance to the U.S. to World War I was the singular sinking of the ship Lusitania that killed 128 Americans. The flashpoint for the Spanish-American War in Cuba was the sinking of the USS Maine in Havana Harbor. The flashpoint for the global war on terror was 9/11. Those all kicked into war. But are there times, though, where a flashpoint is mitigated? Where a crisis is handled without it escalating fully? Yes, there are. Everyone remembers the Cuban Missile Crisis, when the world stood on the brink of the Cold War going very hot, as the Soviet Union decided it wanted to put nuclear missiles a stone's throw away off our southern shores in Cuba. President Kennedy stared down that situation firmly with resolve. Had he blinked, had Kennedy equivocated, had he tried to appease the Soviets for even 1 second, we would have seen enough nuclear material on our border to wipe half of America off the map within a minute of launch. But one of the craziest moments that showed how dangerous and treacherous international policy and brinksmanship can be is one that the world has pretty much forgotten. Some call it the Battle of the Poplar Tree, and it happened near the DMZ between North and South Korea. It's a story that I got to tell you because, interestingly enough, the anniversary of the flashpoint that I'm about to tell you is also this week. You see, 49 years ago this week, to be exact, the demilitarized zone between North and South Korea was a hotspot. The DMZ between North and South Korea, also known as a no man's land, it's a buffer between two countries who hate each other. South Korea and the United States on one side guard the DMZ with North Korea on the other side, and we have done so since the ceasefire from the Korean War. Keep in mind, by the way, there was never actually an official end to that war, just an armistice. But what I'm about to describe to you, though, is what took place in what is known as the Joint Security Area, where both U.S. and South Korean troops can both be there and have a presence. It's kind of like that spot where both sides can meet. You've seen pictures of President Trump meeting there with Kim Jong-un. But on August 18th of 1976, Captain Arthur Art Boniface, a 33-year-old U.S. Army airborne ranger and Vietnam veteran, was leading a routine mission to trim a tree that was blocking our view from observation points in the DMZ, and things went horribly wrong. He was on-the-ground commander of a joint security force, and Boniface And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Just making common sense like a superpower. All right, so let me jump on in here and just get into the topic, which we've kind of already been in, really. Remember Abbey Gate? That's what I call this dipper, and it's the same title that I gave to my monologue earlier. By the way, the monologue, all the resources, every day that we do this show, If you go to our website, rightsidemedia.org, there's a tab that says you go to the live tab, go to today's show, any resources. If you hear me rattling paper, the link to that article is on there for you. If you hear my monologue and you want a copy of the script of it, it's on there. And by the way, that's not AI generated. I write those every single morning. Sometimes I wish I had not started that, but nonetheless, I do. And I do it to labor of love. But every day there's about a 5-page monologue that gets created. And those are on the website for you, rightsidemedia.org. I wrote a piece that came out earlier this week. It's been published in several outlets already. 1819 News always gets the first run at it, and they put it out on Monday. I called it Flashpoints to War or Peace. And I will say this, again, as a re-emphasis of something I said last week and in that op-ed, that I really do believe the bombing at Abbey Gate is a part of the flashpoint, if you will, of what caused Putin to believe he could invade Ukraine. And I think I said in there that the world watched in horror at the bombing. Vladimir Putin watched in fascination, because what he saw was a United States at the time that was not willing to protect its own. It was not willing to protect its allies. It was not willing to take a stand that was hard. It was not willing to have accountability. And it was not making good military decisions or foreign policy decisions. And basically at that point, Russia believed they could invade Ukraine and get away with it. Here's something to think about. Prior to, let's see, I want to say the Abbey Gate was the bombing in Abbey Gate and the pullout from Afghanistan. That all happened in August. All right, so you had August, roughly time frame. August 26th, of course, is the anniversary today of the bombing at Abbey Gate. Just prior to that, in the spring, Putin had been posturing as if he wanted to invade Ukraine, beginning moving troops, and there was a lot of world, stage kind of geopolitical discussions. But Russia had actually pulled away. In June, Russia pulled its troops back. It was indicating that it was not going to go forward. The Abbey Gate bombing happened, and within 2 weeks, Putin's Russian and then Belarusian troops began doing joint exercises near the Ukraine border. They massed again almost 6 months to the day after the Abbey Gate bombing. Putin invaded Ukraine. I really do believe that a big part of what gave him what I call the immoral clarity came from watching the feckless foreign policy, the reckless military policy of the Biden administration, and then saying, you know what, why not? I got 3 more years of Biden? I can do this. And so he did. I think he thought he would get it all done before there's any chance that Biden wouldn't get reelected. Amazing the Ukrainians held out like they have. That being said, I mean, we're not going to talk about Ukraine right now. I'm just saying that the end result of that bombing was not just what it did to the U.S. psyche and the loss of life and the complete, demoralization of those of us who served in Afghanistan, watching all of it get just trashed. But then there was also what happened on the world stage. Putin saw it and he seized on it. But so, yeah, yesterday Trump did have that ceremony right there in the Oval. And standing around the Resolute desk, there were Gold Star families from the Abbey Gate bombing. Gold Star families who, many of them said they've never even seen Joe Biden. I talked about the watch. Do you remember this? So wearing their masks because COVID was a big deal. You had the Secretary of Defense, the Secretary of State, the President, the Vice President, all standing in a line as the caskets came off the plane. And my first thought was, well, they should. And then Biden, when the first casket came off, he actually pulled up his shirt sleeve a little bit, looked down at his watch, and then went back to standing there while they came off the plane. Can you find that video?
I can find that one probably, yeah. I'll just put up video now from the Trump
oh, thank you. Yeah.
ceremony today.
I didn't realize you'd done that. So those of you watching on the live stream, JP has just put up a video of yesterday's ceremony in the Oval Office, and members of the Gold Star families of Abbey Gate standing there with him, receiving ceremonial pins from the signing of the proclamation. That moment that Trump said, where is it? I've got it here, my article. I pulled this one, by the way, from Red State. RedState.com had a great write-up on this. During the ceremony, Trump said he will never allow our military service members to be so betrayed, our friends to be so abandoned, and our credibility to be so betrayed or destroyed. I'm sorry. That's where it was. Pete Hegseth was there. He spoke. He said, upon the president's direction, immediately we have initiated an investigation, which showed that there needed to be an even deeper dive. So they've already begun the investigation, and they're finding out more than they thought they would. I don't know what they're finding out. They're probably finding out that people were recommending not to do certain things. They're probably finding out that what General Milley testified to before Congress may not be entirely accurate. I don't know. I'm guessing. But Hegseth said it's a top priority for us. Why decisions were made, why they weren't made, why certain force protection measures were ignored. And he said that somewhere by the middle of next year, they expect to have this entire investigation complete. And a report of some kind coming out. And well, they should. Well, they should. Got the video right there on the screen?
Yes,
yeah,
and
okay.
He will be momentarily checking his watch.
Yeah, there he is, standing next to the First Lady. And then, yeah.
First of all, he looks very pathetic there, like he can barely stay awake. That's his watch.
I don't get it.
He checks his watch in such a manner of like trying to be slick with it.
And there he is, checking his watch. Wow. While flag grade coffins are being removed from the plane because of his inability to lead. I will say this, there's a piece from Heritage, the Heritage Foundation. I hold it in my callous former paratrooper hand. This one came out actually 1 year after the event. So this is in August of 2022. They were doing a 1 year later look back. And they said the whole ugly situation was created by an administration that seemed oblivious to the most basic principles of military operations. I kind of said that a minute ago, didn't I? He said the heroism and honor displayed at Abbey Gate can serve as a metaphor for the condition of our military today is profoundly too small for the task it is given. That's not off. I mean, they were stretched pretty thin. I'll tell you what, we wrap up the topic here in a few minutes. It's something else, y'all. What did it do to us? Well, it was a variety of things. Bill Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. Were confronted by approximately 15 North Korean troops led by a guy named Pak Chul. Pak Chul was nicknamed Lieutenant Bulldog because he had been constantly in frequent confrontations with the Americans. After a few tense minutes of attempted intimidation and posturing, the North Korean officer approached Captain Boniface and demanded that the U.S. soldiers stop trimming down the tree because it had allegedly been, quote, personally planted and nourished by Kim Il-sung, which is a joke, but he probably believed it. Boniface was unfazed by the arrogant North Korean officer. He turned away and began ordering his men to continue their work trimming the tree. Moments later, a truck with 20 additional North Korean soldiers showed up, all of them carrying crowbars, steel pipes, clubs. And what happened next would shock and enrage Americans, South Koreans, and freedom-loving people all over the world. It became a massive flashpoint. It could have gone to war. According to eyewitnesses, Lieutenant Pak calmly took off his watch, wrapped it in a handkerchief, put it in his pocket, and then yelled, "Kill them!" And instantly, the North Korean soldiers, under direct orders from that lieutenant, began beating and hacking the American and North Korean and South Korean soldiers near the tree. In the next 30 seconds or so, Captain Boniface, who was actually scheduled to leave Korea the following week to be reunited with his wife and 3 children, and a First Lieutenant Mark Barrett, a 25-year-old Jacksonville, Florida native who had recently married, were both bludgeoned to death. U.S. forces in Korea immediately went to DEFCON 3. Within hours of the brutal murders, the North Korean government issued the following statement. They said, quote, "At 10:45 a.m. today, the American imperialist aggressors sent 14 hoodlums with axes to the joint security area, and they attacked our guards en masse, committed a serious provocative act of beating our men and wielding murderous weapons." Please. 2 days later, the bodies of Captain Boniface and Lieutenant Barrett were escorted to Kimpo Airport outside of Seoul and flown to the United States, where both men were buried with full military honors. On August 21st, the United States, in a plan that was promoted and authorized by none other than President Gerald Ford himself, launched what became known as Operation Paul Bunyan. JP is going to put a picture up on the screen right now. Operation Paul Bunyan. Yep. The Allies sent 23 American and South Korean vehicles filled with soldiers and a 64-man task force of South Korean special forces right to the site of the incident. They had U.S. Army Cobra attack helicopters on the horizon, B-52 bombers and F-4 Phantoms flying overhead. The USS Midway task force was streaming offshore, and the Americans cut down that whole daggum tree. Approximately 200 North Korean soldiers rushed into the area, began setting up machine gun positions. They had locked and loaded rifles and machine guns, and the North Koreans watched the 40-minute tree cutting in complete silence. Miraculously, they never fired a shot. Kim Il-sung had actually backed down because an American president had the chutzpah to stare him down. Several hours later, the North Korean leadership issued what has been known as the closest thing to a formal apology they've ever issued. They called it a formal regret. President Ford, though, he knew at the time that America was jaded because we had just left Vietnam the year before. But he also knew that flashpoints happen, and you cannot stand there and just do nothing about them. So he faced it head on. Yes, flashpoints happen. The world's a crazy place sometimes, and it's filled up with things that most of us never even know about. At any given time, a madman, an assassin, a crisis, a pandemic can arise and set everything on edge, and sometimes those moments are the flashpoint in a geographical area or in the middle of a competing interest or a historical grievance. What matters most, though, to decide whether it's a flashpoint for peace or war is leadership. Real leadership, the kind that can be tested and proven worthy for such a time as that. That's why elections matter. That's why who we put in office matters, because flashpoints happen, but leadership can actually keep it in check. Two major flashpoints. One that Biden caused launched the war in Ukraine, in my opinion, 4 years ago this week. The other, North Korean provocations on the DMZ against U.S. troops that resulted in 2 deaths that almost went to war, but another American president stood it down. Not only that, he made symbolic gestures to show that we will never allow that to happen again. Flashpoints, they happen. Leadership, it matters. Some of you have seen, I've been doing some time in New York as a contributor on CNN. My role is generally to be the conservative voice at the table, and I'm thoroughly enjoying myself. I have no idea how long this will last, but for now, I'm having a bang-up time, man. But the other night I was in D.C. They moved the show to D.C. for the one night because of the summit, and the other members of my soon-to-be panel were coming and going in the green room, and I had to stop and send a text to the lovely Charlene and told her, I think my message said something like, "Good Lord, I am so outnumbered here." It was laughable. Not a single person on that panel, nor any of the other guests for other shows who were going to and fro for the various studios, were all of a like mind with me. None. About the only thing we could agree on was a time of day, and even that was questionable. And I will confess that once we got going, there was some socializing during the breaks. There was, with some of them, sometimes. But there were some who were literally so far removed from what I consider to be reality that I found myself thinking, man, like Trump derangement syndrome is a very real thing. And it's true. Look, y'all, we know they're out there, right? We do. And yes, I live in a different mindset like many of you, and we tend to surround ourselves with like-minded people, but I'd like to think that I don't just flat out deny reality. I know I have my viewpoint, and my viewpoint is largely entrenched in principle. And I don't, if I ever caught in it, would think that I would ever just deny reality in order to keep my position. But I will add this. There are some folks who are true believers on the left, and I get that. And I don't fault them for having a different worldview if their worldview is actually genuine. But what I've seen so often, though, is that there are way too many on the left who are so steeped in dogma that they have lost all sense of propriety. They will desperately say anything, no matter how ludicrous, just to make sure that nothing good could ever be said about Trump or MAGA or Republicans or Christians or straight white males or whatever the target of the day is at that particular moment. And when that happens, then I know I'm dealing with one of 3 things. One of 3 types of left-wing Looney Tunes. If that happens, if you can tell they're shouting out a statement and they don't even really believe it themselves, they're either a hack, a quack, or a jackwagon. You heard me. Hacks, quacks, and jackwagons. So let me explain. And I'll start with an analogy. One of my favorite movies, written down on all of the issues. And oh yeah, like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, welcome to hour number 2. Hour number 2 on a Taco Tuesday, because it's always about the food. You know that. I'm wrapping up this topic on remember Abbey Gate. And I want to encourage you. I mean, this is worth remembering. This absolutely is something worth remembering. It is absolutely something that should be burned into the memories of anybody who cares a whit about military service, who cares a whit about our standing on the world stage, who cares a whit about what it means to be an America that stands by its allies, all of it. So Heritage Organization did a great piece on the Abbey Gate situation, the Abbey Gate bombing, 1 year after it was over. And it said that the heroism and the horror of Abbey Gate could serve as a metaphor. And it talks about how thousands of desperate Afghans were thronging outside the Abbey Gate. I don't know if y'all remember those images of people clinging to the planes. Remember that? I mean, you had thousands rushing into the gate, trying to get onto the airfield. Like, I mean, you look at it and thought, first of all, how backward? What were you going to do? You're going to run and catch the wheel of a plane and hope that goes well? But they did, and that was desperation. And and then you watch people falling to their deaths because they realized too late they couldn't get off.
I think they thought that was a better option than what the Taliban was going to do. Like, and you look at Afghanistan now, and it's like, well, it's a bit of a disaster. The Taliban running things.
We just the other day the Taliban already hate women. They subjugate women like cattle. I mean, I realize there's some old world stuff there, but I'll never forget being there and hearing this raggedy car coming down the road. There weren't a lot of cars around where I was at. It was like there was a lot of livestock on the street, just as much as there were cars. This raggedy car, and I looked over, and there's an old man driving this raggedy old car, and there's a goat in the front seat next to him, and there's a woman in the back seat wearing a burqa. And I thought, it went by, and I looked at that, and I looked at the guy with me, and I go, "Did you see that?" He goes, "I saw that."
Says it all right there.
Says it all. Women were just recently told, by the way, the Taliban have decreed that their voices are not allowed to be heard outside the home. So they have to speak in hushed tones in the home just to make sure their voices can't be heard. Just asinine. 1 year later, Abbey Gate, Heritage Foundation points out it was taxing in every way possible. And then it points it out. It was a physically taxing. It was psychologically and emotionally taxing. It was professionally taxing. Physically, yeah. The military, the guys there on the ground, they had to establish some kind of crazy sense of order in the dense crowds that were teetering constantly on the verge of rioting. I mean, this is all all while they're wearing body armor and carrying their weapons in the tension of being in a foreign land. Then it was psychologically and emotionally taxing. I mean, they had to literally deny pleading women and children and men screaming about their families any access if they didn't have the right paperwork. And then it was professionally taxing, because they had to identify and evacuate people under this like constantly shifting criteria. The rules of engagement were muddled up, like I said. The window of time was fast approaching where they had to get it done. It was an impossible scenario. We put these guys in an impossible scenario. And oh, by the way, don't forget this. We actually relied on the Taliban for security. Do you remember that? We relied on the Taliban for security. We've been fighting them all this time. That's like defying any level of common sense. But yeah, the administration, it says, seemed absolutely determined to defy any and all, principles of military operations. That airport, by the way, was only 26 miles away from where Bagram was. I mean, it wasn't like we were trying to set up something that was going to be, hours away. No, it was 26 miles away. I've been there. I've been to both. I've been to Bagram Air Base, and I've also been to Kabul Airport. Kabul Airport, that's not listen, unless you have time to build a fort around it, like we did for 20 years in Bagram, unless you have time to build the fort, that was not going to be a defendable site. Listen, it's not on the standards of like a U.S. airport, but it's still a civilian airport. That's what it is. Bagram Air Base, I've been there too. I've been to Bagram before it was in total buildup phase. But Bagram had everything you're looking for. If you're going to build a fort, you want to have clear fields of fire. You want to have a defendable position. You want to have access points that are controllable. You want to have the ability to guarantee the flow in and out of supplies. You want to have any number of, sustaining points within the walls, like, water and rations and all the things it takes to survive inside the walls. Kabul, none of that. And then it says, point out too, that Bagram could have been an evacuation base. It could have been big enough to do what was otherwise impossible for the limited number of troops that the Biden administration allowed to stay inside the country. All said and done, remember Abbey Gate, and I hope that we're going to wind up seeing at some point there be real accountability. I don't know what that means. Is somebody going to jail? Probably not. You don't usually send a general to jail because they make really bad decisions. Unless you can find out that somebody did an absolute, colluded with the enemy or something like that, you're not going to see that. But what you could expect, I believe, is a series of reports that come out that show where the failures in leadership were, what the hinge points were that were missed, what the logistics should have been and that they were requested and then denied. I guarantee you're going to find that. Those are buried in somebody's email chains. You watch. Real quick, Jeff from Indiana says, how much you want to bet that Taylor Swift has him sign a prenuptial agreement? Oh, I guarantee they both are.
I think Taylor Swift has a lot more to lose than Travis.
She does. I think it's probably true. But Travis Kelce, he's a Pro Bowler and a Super Bowl winner, and he had a pretty decent salary, I would imagine, didn't he? I know he was not like a star quarterback, but nonetheless,
Taylor Swift is like a god,
billionaire, isn't she?
A god to the Swifties. Like, I've never seen anything like it, and it's really embarrassing.
It's on par with Elvis in his heyday.
Yeah, but this one is like a cult following I've never seen before. It's something else. I don't know what Taylor Swift's net worth is, but I'd imagine it is quite a bit more than Travis Kelce's.
We just ran the gamut. We went straight from Afghanistan to Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
Mark from Tony, Alabama says General Milley for Gitmo for the botch pullout. Mm-hmm. Jerry from Decatur says, now we know why Mamdani would be soft on crime. It's because he's soft on crime. Airborne. Okay. There's that. JP from or Adam from Athens says, JP, talking about our audio. Yeah, we checked it out, Adam. Everything sounds good. Maybe just be on your end, buddy. David from Huntsville says, pulling the military before the civilians was a huge blunder. Yes. Why would you do that? That's the other thing. The non-combatant evacuations, the NEO operations, you do that first. You get the people out. You secure all the weapons that should not be left behind. You make sure that the Taliban has nothing, that they can use against you later, and didn't do it. Just abandoned it all and dropped it and came out. Adam from Athens says, can we just take them up in a plane and push them out? I'm not sure who you're talking to, but probably not. Just saying. Not the way we roll. All right, listen, we're going to come back in here in a minute, and we're going to jump on to Dipper number 2, which, by the way, if you're not following the White House on X, you should, because the White House just put up a meme, has Donald Trump leaning on the barrel, and the Cracker Barrel logo now says America first, and then it just says America's back, go woke, go broke. Good Lord, they are getting so trolled right now. Cracker Barrel does not even know which way is up. All right, take me to a break, JP. We'll take that break. We'll come right back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. Time, you've heard me say it before, is one that has so many one-liners in it, catchphrases that you can use over and over again. I'm pretty sure I've quoted it on the show multiple times. Classic Americana, classic group of actors. And I'm betting it's on some of y'all's favorite list too. And the movie is The Outlaw Josie Wales with Clint Eastwood, none other. Clint Eastwood, Outlaw, solid movie, anti-hero. Ultimately, his friendship. Well, in the movie Outlaw Josie Wales, one of my favorite characters is the old Native American chief Lone Waddy. He was played by a real-life chief named Dan George. Everything that came out of Lone Waddy's mouth in that movie just seemed like old man wisdom. It was always calm. It was always deliberate. It was delivered in such a way that sounded like he was being funny and challenging somebody to fight all at the same time. Well, there's one point in the movie, though, where Lone Waddy was walking into a general store in a western town, and a snake oil salesman was standing on the steps pitching his wares to the crowd. And he stood there, Lone Waddy did, as he watched the carpetbagger promise to heal all and cure all with his special elixirs of proprietary ingredients. And the salesman turned at one point and saw Lone Waddy and tried to get him to sample it for the crowd. "What's in it?" Lone Waddy asked. "Well, I don't know. I'm just the salesman." To which Lone Waddy looked at him and said, "You drink it." Well, the salesman didn't know what to do with that, so he turned around and insulted Lone Waddy instead by saying to the crowd, "What does he know? He's just a savage." But what really happened in that scene, really, was that the purveyor of fake medicine was actually being calmly called out. The character of Lone Waddy could see right through the guy. Very easily he called him out. It wasn't even hard. He basically asked the charlatan for some simple information, the ingredients. And then he simply put him on the spot by saying, in essence, "You first." Look, let me tell you, the world is full of snake oil salesmen these days. And I got news. We had better be able to discern. We have got to be able to see them for what they are. When you're presented with something that you know flies in the face of your core beliefs, your principles, your values and traditions, then ask yourself, first of all, okay, what kind of person am I looking at here? And the language of Rightside is, again, I'm going to tell you, you have three choices. You have hacks, quacks, and jackwagons. That's it. Hacks, quacks, and jackwagons. Now, what's the definition? A hack, there's an actual definition for these. A hack is a cheap, mediocre, second-rate practitioner of some kind. They're not good at what they do. Hacks know a little bit about a lot, but they're not yet good at anything in particular. These are the guys who will say afterward, well, I was just following orders, because they never took the time to truly assess the mounds of bureaucracy they heap on people's lives. A hack does not like to be confronted. A hack will often end the discussion with an insult, or by telling you you can take it up with the boss or whoever it is they answer to. So that's a hack. Then there's a quack. A quack is an outright fraud. A quack claims great knowledge or skill of which they possess little, but they will foist themselves and their unsubstantiated beliefs on anybody who will give them the time of day. But in the end, a quack knows they don't have any depth of knowledge, but they're willing to put other people at risk in order to better their positions. A quack will actually argue their position is right, but will rarely have the knowledge or the know-how to be able to hold their own in a debate. All right, so that's hacks. That's quacks. What about jackwagons? Well, a jackwagon, that's a lazy good-for-nothing who won't try to pull his wagon around to the front of the line. It's true. That's what they call it. A jackwagon. It's easier to go along to get along, so they just don't even try. Jackwagons just blend into whatever the latest fad is. Even less than followers, they're just really like mere strap hangers. They don't even have enough ambition or depth of character to label something as untrue. They just go along with it. Jackwagons can't handle questions or confrontations. They have to have the crowd help them all the time. So out of fear of being left off the wagon train altogether, they just ride in the back and eat the dust of whatever wagons are up front. That's a jackwagon. All right, so how does this help you? Well, coming to the decision that someone is throwing a woke idea or a worldview at you as a hack or a quack or a jackwagon gives you an edge in how to deal with them. Case in point. Remember when the Biden administration, in its never-ending war on fossil fuels, tried to ban the use of gas stoves in homes? Really? Okay. Liberal politicians and regulators were announcing the end of gas in homes. Like, wow. So if someone were to tell you that you need to get rid of that gas oven you've been frying chicken on for the last 20 years, you start by asking them, why? And if they parrot some party line response or talking point from the Green New Deal, just ask them to go first. No hot water heater, no home heat, no stove, no gas grill in your house. You go first. If they stare at you blankly, like they hadn't thought of that, then you're dealing with a jackwagon who's just along for the ride and doing whatever the crowd says to do. And you can politely suggest they get their own mind and maybe disengage. If, however, they respond to you by telling you that they are the ones who regulate, not you, that their homes are not yet on the schedule. We don't have to do that yet. It's up to you to do yours first. Then you know you're dealing with a hack. Someone who is doing what they're told regardless of the consequences to other people. If that's the case, ask them, okay, so how are you going to pay for it? Who's going to cook your family's food in the meantime? If they stare at you blankly, then you know you're dealing with a hack. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. Man, just making common sense like a superpower. Mike from Coxie, Alabama says, somehow I just believe that all the really stupid decisions that were made regarding Afghanistan were signed by an auto pen. No doubt, man. Hey, listen, I'm changing gears now. I'm going to jump on into Dipper number 2, the cracked barrel. Shea Manetti, y'all. I mean, it's gone viral. Cracker Barrel is like having a total Dylan Mulvaney moment. Their stock is tanking. Their fan base is just livid. And now the president of the United States is weighing in. JP, you got that video, that piece? Go ahead and put it up on the screen if you get a chance. So those of y'all live streaming right now can see on the screen. So the White House, oh, this is awful. The White House just posted on X a little while ago a picture of the Cracker Barrel logo with the old guy leaning on the barrel, and it has that kind of like I don't know, big rounded scalloped looking, I don't know what that is, potato shaped thing. Says Cracker Barrel. Well, now it says America first, and the guy leaning on the barrel is Donald Trump. And down at the bottom, it just says America is back. And then the caption they sent with it says, "Go woke, go broke." Yes, I kid you not. I mean, I realize that the Trump administration is not afraid to weigh in on things that you look at and go, well, no other president in the world's ever done that before. This one just cracks me up, though. So it accompanies, by the way, a retweet of a Truth Social. All right. So Donald Trump's got, his own social media. He posted this. He said, Cracker Barrel should go back to the old logo, admit a mistake based on customer response, the ultimate poll, and manage the company better than ever before. He said they got $1 billion worth of free publicity if they play their cards right. Very tricky to do, but a great opportunity. He said, have a major news conference today, make Cracker Barrel a winner again. Remember, in just a short period of time, I made the United States of America the hottest country anywhere in the world. 1 year ago, it was dead. Good luck. But you know what, though? He's not wrong. I mean, they could not pay for the amount of PR they would get by hosting a press conference right now. You know what?
Yeah, and they really should. Like the liberal CEOs or whoever made this decision, and is back doubling down on it, saying, well, actually, I believe they called it a extremely vocal minority of people who didn't like it. I mean, did you see the picture of their stock? It absolutely plummeted.
I've got an article here about it.
So no, it's not a vocal minority. I think the vocal minority is the whatever little group of friends you have that are telling you, that looks great. Good job.
Well, then they went and got some, they went to New York City and they got a bunch of Instagram influencers who probably never eaten at a Cracker Barrel before.
Yeah.
And they had them sit on a rooftop, dining area and sample the new menu and talk about how wonderful it was. And I'm like, you're not even in touch with your base right now.
They have no idea who their audience is. Like if they knew who goes to Cracker Barrel actually frequently, they would know. But no, they're trying to rebrand and make it into some sort of millennial liberal hotspot of people to go, like a coffee shop or something.
You just go down to Salt of the Earth America and say, hey, we're giving out samples. Y'all want to try this? Oh, watch this. And you know what? Everybody line up. I'm going to tell you, I can't tell how many people I have seen on social media say that Cracker Barrel, they would sometimes plan their trips around staging at Cracker Barrel exits. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They would plan, okay, we'll get gas and there's a Cracker Barrel there, so it'll be great. But I look at it and go, wow, this is like so self-inflicted. So Jeff from Indiana asked a question: can the stockholders of Cracker Barrel sue the board of directors and the CEO for not meeting their fiduciary obligations? Yes and no. Okay, it's a yes and a no. So they do have a fiduciary obligation. You are so correct, sir. Thank you very much. They also, by the way, cannot be held accountable for making what would otherwise be deemed a reasonable decision. Now, then the question is, what's reasonable? Were they not listening to advice? Were they sacrificing the welfare of the company? It's called a shareholder derivative action, is what they call it. It's where the shareholders get involved and go, stop it. On behalf of the company we own stock in, we are now suing you. And they can sue the board to redirect. But I don't know that this would qualify. I think this one would be just adjudged as, basically bad judgment as opposed to, malicious effort to sacrifice the company's well-being. I don't know. I got one call on topic, so let me grab that real quick before I run out of time. I got about 3 minutes here. Wolverine Dan, hey buddy, how are you?
Well, I'm doing quite well. So get down to the nitty gritty. Why was the sign changed? I guess I didn't know about that.
Yeah, there's no telling. They thought they needed a fresh logo, and so they took the sign with the guy leaning on the barrel, the iconic, kind of scallop shape that said crack, and they turned it into just basically a kind of a weird shape that just says Cracker Barrel. That's all it says.
Okay, well, if the intent was for a fresh logo, a new look, then that means your menu would be different, possibly also maybe the decor might be different because it's no longer the old gentleman with the barrel. So, maybe that was just a bad decision, obviously, because the stock has dropped. But my wife loves the chicken and dumplings. I'm not sure if you've had them there.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But, they also changed the menu and they completely redesigned the interior. They got rid of all the nostalgia. The walls are white now. And it looks like
I didn't know. No, that I did not know. My wife will be very disappointed.
Oh, yeah, they've changed everything.
Phil, the bottom line is this. People at our age and older are familiar with that, and they were very successful, still make quite a bit of money with the old decor. But we look forward to walking in there and, like a Beeman's gum. Where can I get Beeman's gum at? You can't get Beeman's gum except there.
That's right.
Or blackjack gum. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
It makes no sense.
Bottom line, Phil, you know what it is? It's just, these people sometimes, if it's a woke thing, then shame on them because, we're just common people that just want to go to a place like Mom and Pop Place.
That's
where
right.
we can sit down and have a nice family dinner. Okay. What's wrong with that?
Ain't nothing wrong with that. And yes, somewhere in the mix, it's just like when they put Dylan Mulvaney on the Bud Light can, they wanted to get away from the old stodgy image and do something fresh. And all they did was sacrifice their sales. But it's a mess.
Hey, love your show.
Thank you, brother.
Love your show, bro.
Appreciate you. Take care. Matt and Madison, by the way, just checked in. He says, dear Cracker Barrel, you just can't fix stupid. It's true. All right, let me ask you this, JP. So Wolverine Dan and I are, I would say, roughly peers in age. Mm-hmm. We both like the nostalgic aspect of going to Cracker Barrel. You are absolutely of a different age demographic. Did you like the old Cracker Barrel?
Yeah, I loved it. Yeah. I mean, me and my friends in college would go to Cracker Barrel. Like, it's part of the whole experience. I mean, I'm probably a bit of more traditional,
kind of old soul,
old soul than like majority of people my age probably don't go to Cracker Barrel regularly. But yeah, I mean, if you're asking me and my friends, yeah, like we loved that atmosphere. We loved the food. It was like grandma's cooking, and it's just that whole atmosphere. Yeah, the nostalgic atmosphere, like you said. Yeah, we loved it.
I can't explain it, but I got more information on it. We'll get back from this this whole break here, and I got to tell you, they even, by the way, made a change to the peg game. Come on, people. And yes, it's got some wokeness attached to it. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. They never even thought about what it does to you. But if they pass those two tests and they fire back some data from the World Economic Forum and the United Nations Council on Green Everything, then you're likely dealing with a quack. They claim to know things. Quacks know all of it. He will tell you how smart he is and how little you apparently understand. Then you simply ask him how he responds to all the counter studies that he probably hasn't read. And you follow that by asking how it is that people have lived so long using gas appliances all this time. He won't know. He'll likely dismiss you at that point. And that, my friends, is a quack if there ever was one. Look, the bottom line is you can take this approach in virtually every fad, fashion, or foible the left tries to foist on your society. Think about it. Pick one. Gender fluidity, systemic racism, critical race theory, climate change caused by cow flatulence, building bigger government, open borders. I mean, every issue has them, all the hacks, the quacks, and the jackwagons. And you know who you're dealing with. Knowing that sometimes is half the battle. So there you have it. Don't say I never gave you anything, because I just laid out for you how to identify a shallow liberal. But once you decide they're a hack or a quack or a jackwagon, then you can proceed to dismantle their simplistic arguments, just like Chief Lone Waddy did to the snake oil salesman. I'm telling you, man, it works every time. We just recorded an amazing podcast with former Navy SEAL Jared Hudson, who now hunts down human traffickers. He's also got a personal story that involves a lot of overcoming and a ton of faith. So listen, I can't encourage you enough. Go ahead and sit down, make yourself ready for the Just Right podcast, in this case with Jared Hudson. Yeah, let's do a show.
1, 2, 3, hey!
Jared Hudson, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, brother.
I'm glad to have you and appreciate you making time. So I'm going to do sort of an intro so folks know exactly who I've got sitting across the table from me right now. But so you're born and raised here in Alabama, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, born in Lynchburg, Virginia, and when I was about 4 or 5, we moved here. So, but yeah, pretty much born and raised.
So you're a
here.
carpetbagger. You came down from up north.
Came down from up north. Came down from just below the Mason-Dixon line now. So still technically the South.
We'll take it.
Yeah.
Bottom line though, grew up to become a Navy SEAL. That was your career. Team 3, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that's right.
Sniper qualified.
Yep, sniper.
You're also APO certified, Alabama,
Alabama
Police Officer Standards.
Yeah.
Certified law enforcement officer.
Yep.
Spent time in law enforcement, even ran for sheriff of the largest county in the state of Alabama, Jefferson County.
I was the sheriff runner-up is what I like to say because it makes me feel better.
You were actually the Republican choice. How about that?
There you go. How about that?
And I'll be honest with you, too. We'll talk about that more later. But as a longtime member of the Republican Party and a former elected official myself, I watched your race. And you were in a blue county running a red race, and you took him to the wire. And I think that says a lot.
Yeah, about 1%, and I lost by about 1.5%, I think, is what it came down to.
It was way close, and I think he was scared.
Yeah,
and he should have been. All right, there's that. You ran for sheriff. You love the Lord. You make no bones about it.
Only thing that matters.
Perfect. Which also leads me to you got a beautiful wife and 3 daughters.
I do. Yep.
And I think those 2 are the crowning pieces of your resume.
They are. So I've got the wife, the 3 girls, and obviously my faith. First and foremost, even above them, Jesus says, if you don't hate your family, then you don't have a love for me. It doesn't mean that I actually hate my family because I'm called to draw them to Christ, but my love for him even supersedes my love for them, and my love for them is unbelievably great. I'd burn the world down for those girls, and so that's how I feel. So imagine what I do for Jesus, if that makes sense.
And you're trained to burn the world down.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Don't mess with my daughters because I'm gonna die trying.
I'm for that.
Yeah.
You now run, having spent time in the teams, you're out civilian world. You now run 2 companies, the Shooting Institute and Covenant Rescue Group.
Yep.
And we'll get into both of those in a minute. But I think suffice to say, your previous resume has translated well into what you're doing in the civilian world.
It has, yeah. The time in the SEAL teams is what prepared me, but also gave me, it's like the little bit of bait on the hook. And you still have to set the hook, but that's what gets people interested in who I am. Because SEAL, I'm just a regular dude like anybody else, but SEAL is a thing that people look at and they're like, wow, like you hear doctor.
Hey, all you Rightside ruffians out there, you are listening to Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. Covering down on some major ground across the Southeast U.S. of A. Y'all, I'm talking about this show. This show goes from like Huntsville back over to Chattanooga. I'm talking about Tuscaloosa back over to Gadsden. All the way down to that loveliest little village on the plains we call Auburn, straight across the line from there to what we call, once again, Fort Benning. And then big old patches of North Georgia, Mississippi, all thrown in just for good measure. And oh, by the way, that's just the radio. Then there's a whole lot of y'all in the whole wide world going to the World Wide Web, dialing into the show, live streaming like video and audio both, live streaming on places like X, YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, and our website, rightside.media.org. And then you podcasters that catch it after the fact too. Listen, bottom line is wherever you catch this show, I say all that just to say, we can see it. We know you're there. We love it. We appreciate you more than you can possibly know. You're the reason why we do what we do. Hey, I got to real quick tell you about something going on with 1819 News. So our friends at 1819 News, man, they got it going on. They got good things happening. They got a big event coming up on November 14th. November 14th, the annual Albert Patterson Freedom Gala, and Albert Patterson being a great figure in Alabama history who was assassinated for standing up for, the rights of people. Albert Patterson, 1819's annual Albert Patterson dinner, November 14th. Tucker Carlson is going to be the keynote speaker that night. Well, they're also doing, by the way, a giveaway. 1819, if you're not familiar, is a 501c3. They are a nonprofit organization. They don't sell ads. They don't do all that. They raise their contributions to do the truth telling that they do. And by doing that, they can then be free to do whatever they want to do and say whatever they want to say and report it the way they believe it should be reported. They're not subject to, corporate news, all that kind of stuff. They do a great job. But right now they've got a giveaway worth $20,000. Guess what it is? A Mar-a-Lago outing. What? Yes. Spend a couple of days and nights at Mar-a-Lago down in Florida. You'll get an all-expense paid trip to Mar-a-Lago. Oh, by the way, you're going to get a candlelight dinner, spa treatment. It's a $20,000 package, $500 per opportunity to win it. $500 win you a $20,000 Mar-a-Lago venture. That could be cool. All you got to do is go to www.1819news.com/raffle. That's 1819news.com/raffle. Listen, that's just cool right there. Mar-a-Lago. Yeah. All right, I'm jumping back into the topic, the cracked barrel. That's what I'm talking about, the cracked barrel. There's been a lot of talk about, well, okay, is this really like rebranding that's going wrong? Or are they really woke? It's yes and yes. It is rebranding going wrong. They have gone woke. So Robbie Starbuck, if you're not familiar with him, Robbie Starbuck is a conservative commentator. He's huge on social media. Robbie Starbuck did a deep dive into all the things that have been happening at Cracker Barrel over the last few years. Let me just say they have gone full woke, all right? Never go full woke. Well, they've gone full woke. Here are some of the highlights that he's accumulated. First of all, Cracker Barrel Corporate has funded, quote, all ages pride events for many years, like the Nashville Pride and the Third River City Pride. Okay. Cracker Barrel worked with the far left Human Rights Campaign organization and sponsored HRC events for 10 years. They even brought an HRC representative to their Tennessee headquarters to do a pronoun and transgenderism training for the corporate staff at Cracker Barrel. And there are videos, by the way. That's real. That happened. As a reminder, HRC, the Human Rights Campaign, he points out, supports child sex changes in men and women's bathrooms. This is Cracker Barrel we're talking about. This is the land of fried okra and chicken and dumplings, man. This is where you go to get your Beeman's gum. This is the place where you find down-home food just like Granny cooked. And oh, by the way, pride flags. Just saying. Pride flags hanging in the corporate headquarters. Cracker Barrel also worked with a group called Conexión Americas as part of their DEI efforts to help illegal immigrants by providing them lawyers and executive director who opposes President Trump's deportations. Wow. I mean, God almighty, they're all in, aren't they? Cracker Barrel sponsored what's called the Out and Equal LGBTQ Workplace Advocacy Conference and presented a workshop on how Cracker Barrel has made progress supporting their LGBTQ2IA+ acronym causes. They push sexual topics and pronouns in the workplace. They were awarded what's known as the Out and Equal 2018 Top LGBT Group Award, and they won the Nashville LGBT Chamber of Commerce Corporate Diversity Award. Good Lord. Cracker Barrel, what's up?
Yeah, I kind of had the feeling when they had the whole logo change and the rebrand that if there's smoke, there's fire. So I was thinking behind the scenes, there may have been stuff like that going on, which is crazy. Because it's like you said, completely not understanding who your base is. Who goes to Cracker Barrel?
And oh, by the way, it wasn't broke.
Yeah.
It wasn't like things are suffering. We got to change things.
Well, there started to be a little bit of a dip after that stuff was happening. And like after they started becoming a little more woke, that's when the dip happened. So then I think they saw that as, okay, maybe instead of saying we should maybe change things, oh, no, let's go all in. It's surely because we're not being woke enough. We got to go all in.
I had somebody that pointed out, and I thought this was interesting. They said when they started serving alcohol, and yet their business model is to stage themselves next to interstates, it's almost like they're encouraging drinking and driving.
Exactly.
Like, I hadn't thought of that. Have you some chicken and dumplings and a mimosa?
Yeah.
That makes no sense to me whatsoever.
Get this guy some keys. Let's get him on the road.
Here's some more stuff on Cracker Barrel. They created a special, quote, diverse suppliers program requiring diversity among their suppliers, which basically reads, typically speaking, as less white people. They had coming out day pamphlets passed out at their Tennessee headquarters. Coming out day. Wonderful. They had safe zones at work. God almighty. Safe zone. All right. All right. Safe zones. Keep that in mind when I get to the peg game in a minute. Safe zones. They had safe zones to be at work free from heterosexist or C-word gender comment and actions. What does that mean? C-word gendered, like cisgendered? What does that mean?
I can't even tell you what C-word gender is.
Good Lord.
I assume it is cisgender.
Oh, I see what it is. He had to say C-word gendered because he says, Robbie Starbuck says X would downrank his post if he spelled out the full word. He said, if you said anything activist, you could be described as heterosexist. Then you were told you'd be educated by the LGBT office group. Cracker Barrel also has had multiple DEI-focused employees, had Cracker Barrel employees attend DEI roundtables, had pride flags at the corporate office, and they promoted the Stonewall Riot, to employees on their website. Good Lord. Stonewall Riot, by the way, is basically a gay rights activist riot that occurred years ago. Some call it the turning point in gay rights activism. Cracker Barrel has had many activist employees driving their far left policy agenda, including a head of training and management, top executives, and boards of directors who owns a DEI consulting firm. And that's real. I saw that the other day. So the bottom line is, he points out, they have absolutely gone woke. Absolutely gone woke. What has happened to Cracker Barrel since then? Pray tell. Thank you for asking. Cracker Barrel loses almost $100 million in value after their logo refresh. God. This is from thehill.com, which, by the way, is not a conservative venue. This is what I would call kind of a back and forth. Whoever's writing it happens to be more left or right in their writing. TheHill.com says, as of Dateline 3 days ago, Cracker Barrel stock plummeted $94 million last Thursday after the country staple restaurant pushed out an unexpected rebrand. The 55-year-old company's share dropped 7.2%. Jeez. The PR firms Profit, Viral Nation, and Blue Engine each played a role in the logo relaunch. Oh, good. Blue Engine. That's got to be something. That's got to be woke left. People are just like shaking their heads over it. Steak and Shake, by the way, Steak and Shake's been wearing them out on social media. You've seen that.
Well, actually, it's funny. I literally just now, like 10 seconds ago, saw a Steak and Shake post of a hat that says "Fire Cracker Barrel CEO." Steak and Shake posted it.
They're starting to sell those at Steak and Shake, I'm sure, so that the stockholders can buy one for themselves.
It's genius. I mean, they clearly know how to play the social media game. Steak and Shake has. Oh
God! This also points out too, Cracker Barrel was regaining some losses on Friday, and so they gained a little bit back. But I saw one of the basically the schematics I saw of there as a stock is it's way low. Like, makes you wonder, is it safe to buy it now? I don't know. Should we buy it now, or is it going low? I don't know. Adam from Athens says something that I saw in a meme. He says Sydney Sweeney couldn't even save Cracker Barrel at this point. I saw one that said there's only one woman in the world now who could save Cracker Barrel, and it had Sydney Sweeney wearing a Cracker Barrel shirt.
Yeah, literally one. Just put Sydney Sweeney as the girl sitting on the barrel. I'm sure you'll bounce back just fine. Like
maybe like in a heartbeat. Quickly have the press conference, announce the new ad campaign, pay Sydney Sweeney millions of dollars, and get on out there, y'all.
Yeah,
just saying. All right, last couple things on this. I mentioned the peg game. Oh my gosh. So I said a minute ago that Cracker Barrel corporate apparently set up safe places where if you're scared, if you're offended, if you heard a word that triggered you, if you need some place to gather yourself because, life is hard. Well, then maybe you shouldn't play the peg game. You got that skip? You got that image? You can put it up. So JP's putting it up on the screen right now. So Cracker Barrel has now altered the language on its classic table peg game. Remember the peg game? It's a triangle with holes drilled in it. You got golf tees, and you try to jump one tee after, and you just get it down as best you can towards maybe being one left on the board. By the way, I have done it before. It is possible. I have made it happen.
It's difficult, but you can do it.
So it used to say, you leave only one, you're a genius. You leave two, you're pretty smart. You leave three, you're just plain dumb. You leave four or more, you're just a plain ignoramus. Now it says, if you leave three or more, don't be embarrassed. Try again. Yeah. They put a safe place on the peg game. Were children crying and we didn't know it? Were there souls being crushed at the Cracker Barrel tables and we just didn't see it?
I think majority of the kids who are playing it probably don't even know how to read yet. So I don't know if that's it.
Now, wait a minute. I play it.
Well, I'm saying the kids who play it. Yes.
It says in Cracker Barrel's process of rebranding from old-timey to modern old-timey and killing their business, they wokeified the peg game to minimize hurt feelings of those who don't do so well. Golly. I pulled this off Fox News, by the way. And JP's got a picture of it. Is that the actual corrected, that the new one?
Yes.
That's the safe place one?
Leave only 1 year, genius. Leave 2, rock in the chair, but not the game. Leave 3 or more. No reason to be embarrassed. Try again.
And they just don't even leave the 4.
No. Leave 3 or more. So you could have the
Three
whole
or more.
board. You could have the whole board filled with golf tees.
And did they spell one of the words wrong? Did they spell embarrass wrong? They did,
yes.
didn't
Yep. They spelled embarrassed with 1 R.
they?
So they're really killing it over there.
Wow. Okay. So, by the way, update on that loss. I just realized I had some documents in my resource stack out of order. Fox Business reports that as of yesterday, Cracker Barrel has lost $143 million in market value. The S&P is up. Cracker Barrel's still down. So that's just like no good. Here's the thing. This is what cracks me up. Have you seen the CEO?
Yes.
Julie Fels-Massino. Is that a hyphenated name, by the way?
I assume it is.
Never trust a hyphenated name.
Never.
Never, ever trust a hyphenated name. I don't trust the hyphenated names. Is it? Is it hyphenated?
I'll look it up.
I mean, why else would you put Julie Fels-Massino?
Cracker Barrel CEO. Let's see. It is no, it's not a hyphenated name.
It's
actually.
not. She just chooses to use all of her names.
I guess she does.
Okay, like Billy Bob Thornton.
Yeah.
Julie Fels-Massino. So Julie Fels-Massino. Where's Julie Fels? Who named her? I mean, is that okay? I'm chasing a rabbit. She was on Good Morning America, and host Michael Strahan was asking her, "So what if all the customers are coming at you hard enough about the look of the restaurant and they want to go back to the old way?" And she responded with this like she was gushing, and it was so overplayed. Honestly, she says, "Oh goodness, honestly, the feedback's been overwhelmingly positive that people like what we're doing." Okay. Lost $143 million in market value.
But that's just a vocal minority.
It's apparently a vocal minority. I will say Daily Wire almost gave him an out. I was surprised by this. Daily Wire, which is usually pretty harsh on this stuff. Daily Wire says Cracker Barrel didn't go woke so much as they were just conned by experts. So they hired consultants.
Okay, and who are the consultants? Are they woke?
See?
I don't think any non-woke consultant would tell them to do that.
No, not at all. All right. So the bottom line is, yeah, they hired consultants who told them this will be awesome. Wipe out everything you've ever stood for, all the things you've looked at, change the menu of the food that people love, and pretend you're not who you were. And then, all those decades of goodwill you built up across the country, where you were referred to as like America's front porch and all that. Yeah. Have yourself a Bud Light, carry on. All right, listen, we're going to take a break right now. We'll take that break. We'll come right back. I'll catch up on some text messages. You guys are awesome. Text it in. Tell me what you think about Cracker Barrel. 833-687-4448. That's 833-68-RIGHT. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. We'll be right back.
Hear lawyer, you hear politician, congressman, senator. Those things carry some weight because it takes something to get there, and I think that's what SEAL has done for me.
I think that's fair to say, and I think there's never going to be a time in your life, I'm of the mind, that God doesn't plant something in your life with purpose beyond what you might have imagined it.
100%, man. 100%.
You also, apparently, like every other SEAL, you wrote a book.
Yeah, that's right. Now, all my other SEAL buddies say, "You didn't write a book, bro. You wrote a pamphlet." It's only like 50 pages long, but yeah,
it works. It publishes.
Yeah, that's right.
And you also, by the way, right here with Rightside, you're one of our podcasters.
Yeah,
you got the Liberty Minute podcast, comes out every other week for the most part. Yeah.
I told a guy told me, he said, "Oh man, you're that guy on the Liberty Minute with Phil Williams." I said, "Yeah, man, my name's Jared. Nice to meet you." I know exactly who you are. I got one question though. Why do you call it the Liberty Minute? Because it's like 13 to 17 minutes every time. And I said, "Look, it's just a name, bro.
It's a euphemism, man.
It's just a name." So I thought it was pretty good though.
All right, cool resume.
Let me ask you this. You got a beautiful family, amazing military record. You live large. How if I'm going to start off, I'm going to get philosophical right off the bat. So having said all that, those things, like on paper, I see it all. But how do you want to be remembered?
Yeah, no, I mean, the only thing that you should be remembered as is who are you in the person of Jesus Christ, because that's the only thing that lasts, right? Now, if I die right now, I'm going to be attached. I'm going to have a lasting impact, even in my death, on my wife and my girls. Possibly some of the people in my sphere of influence, possibly some of the guys in the SEAL teams I work with or in business or whatever. I might have a lasting impact. But oftentimes that lasting impact is not so much – it's not so much who you are here physically. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I really believe it's who you are in the person of Jesus Christ, because they look at it and say, man, that guy really was who he believed in. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
so it's and I believe it's in James. He talks about, I'll show you my faith through my works. That's not a works-based salvation.
Right.
He's not saying that I'm working my way to heaven. I'm not doing X, Y, and Z, and that's going to get me to heaven. No, he's just saying, I have faith and I believe in Jesus, and because of that, you're going to see my fruits. My fruits are going to show that I believe in Jesus. Now, there's another aspect of that without getting too far off on this topic. You hear a lot of people say, oh, I let people see who Jesus is through how I live my life, right? That's what, I don't necessarily tell everybody about Jesus, but they get to see who Jesus is through how I live my life. Well, that's not good either, because Paul says, how will they hear if they don't have a preacher to preach? So there's two aspects to that. There's one, what I say, right? Scripture says a freshwater spring doesn't produce salt water. What I say is unbelievably important. But then once I say it, it's my actions that back it up. It's words, then action. And we see that with God. John chapter 1, in the beginning was the Word, right? Wasn't in the beginning was the action, was the creation. No, in the beginning was the Word was God, the Word was with God. And then all was made through him and by him, and without him, nothing was made. We see that in John chapter 1. First was the Word, what he spoke, what we speak. Then second is the actions that back up what we speak. And ultimately see in John chapter 4 or John chapter 1 verse 14, the Word became flesh and dwelt among men, right? And we see that in Isaiah. He says, I was amazed. God was amazed that there was none who could stand before him. He's talking about when he was drawing the plan to create the world. None could intercede for man, so he said, I'll take up my own strong arm of salvation. So God says, I'm going to make a world where sin is possible. I'm not going to make them sin, but I'm going to give them the option. And guess what? I know they're going to choose sin. And there's none that are going to be able to stand before him, but I'm going to make a way out of sin, and it's going to be through me. That's what God says, and that's who we should be.
That's
so
1
the lasting
10:13.
That's right. So that's a lasting impact. The lasting impact is when I die, when I'm gone, when anybody looks, was Jared Hudson, was his actions, how he raised his kids, the husband he was to his wife, how he was to his friends, the guys he went to war with, the guys that he worked with here, stateside law enforcement. Did his actions match the words that he said? And those are the two important things. So when I'm remembered, I want to be remembered as a guy whose actions matched my words, because ultimately that should, as a Christian, that should give not honor and glory to me, that gives honor and glory to God. That guy really was who he believed in.
I think that's awesome. And let me ask you this, because I'm going to chase a rabbit for a minute. I just heard probably 5 times in the last couple of minutes you quoting scripture. So, like me
loosely quoting scripture.
Okay, it wasn't too awful of a paraphrase, but most of it was pretty accurate.
Yeah.
And also when you said that, it would click verses in my mind that I think I responded back.
And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. I mean, like, man, making common sense like a superpower. Bulletproof influence. That's what it is. Bulletproof influence. Dave from Athens says, Cracker Barrel has forgotten their roots and what differentiates them from IHOP or Waffle House and any other restaurant. Yep. Mike from Coxie, Alabama says, wow, you mean Cracker Barrel tried to dumb down the just plain ignoramus on the game? That's just plain stupid. Yeah, I would say they left a lot of pegs on the board. Let's just say.
That was good.
You like that?
That was good.
Dun-dun-dun. I'll be in the area all day. Thank you. Terry from Town Creek says, once Travis and Taylor are married, I hope we can quit hearing about them.
Amen. Thank you.
Don't bet on it. And all right, what's their name's going to be now? It's going to be
I guarantee it'll be either a hyphenated name or they're just going to stay the same.
I think it's going to be Traveler, or it's going to be it's going to, I don't know.
What'll be real funny is if Kelsey changes his name to Swift. Travis Swift.
What do you bet she doesn't change her name?
She doesn't.
She won't go hyphenated, will she?
No. Well,
never trust a hyphenated name.
She's not losing the Swift because she's a 1.6 billionaire, apparently.
Oh wow.
So yeah.
So we laugh, but yet she has the laugh because she's got $1.6 billion. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. I'll listen. $1.6 billion. I'll go dance on stage in a leotard.
And her husband. Please don't. Her husband's only at 60 million too, by the way. So,
well, now, Adam from Athens again. He's the one who said earlier that Sydney Sweeney couldn't even save Cracker Barrel at this point. There you go. TL from Huntsville says, Phil and JP, do we know how the woke corporate board took over? Was it an ownership change or just key people worming their way in and then making major changes and pushing out people who don't agree? We need to know how to stop this before it starts, because I don't think the woke left cares if it destroys American traditions. They will just move on to another target. That's not a bad point. And my understanding is there was one main board member who pushes DEI like crazy, who actually owns a DEI consulting company, and he's on the board. And he began to steer things. And then they got swept up in the let's go woke and never make us broke movement. And look how they are now. Kenan from Huntsville says Cracker Barrel's $143 million loss is on top of the $700 million spent on the rebrand. Ooh, that's a great point. I'd forgotten how much they're spending on the rebrand. Good Lord.
Yeah, you got to change the logos everywhere and do the rebranding inside. Yeah,
wow.
Cannot be cheap.
All right. Are they auctioning off all the memorabilia? Because they got some good stuff, man. They had some good stuff on the walls.
They did. And I wonder if half of them were even real people. If they just painted a bunch of random paintings of like people with pitchforks and put them up on the.
No, they had some good like old metal signs and all kinds of stuff. Spence from Harvest says maybe they could change their slogan to be the home of new Coke and cold grits. And then Jeff from Indiana says, hey, Phil, original Cracker Barrels used to be associated with gas stations and used to sell gas. Now they're just combined with a gaff, not gas. Ha ha, he says. Ha ha to you, dad joke guy. All right. Hour number 3 coming up. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. It's 10:13. Yeah. So I'm a firm believer in memorizing scripture. My personal, I call it my life verse, is Joshua 1:8-9. And it says, this book of the law shall not depart from you. You shall meditate on it day and night so that you may do what is written in it, and by this achieve prosperity and success. So let me ask you this. Is the memorization of scripture something that's happened just because it was ingrained over time, or do you have a deliberate attempt on a regular basis to put it to memory?
Man, I just read it, if I'm being honest.
It just sticks?
Yeah, just read it. What'd you say?
Does it just stick? I mean, when you read it, does it stay?
Stick? Yeah.
Or do you intentionally try to memorize it?
No, I don't intentionally try to memorize it. It's just I think it's just the natural outcome of of reading the word. You can, and when I was a kid, we did Awanas. I think it was with my dad. Yes, we did Awanas. Not far from here. Rainbow City First Baptist, right up the road here. And so we would memorize verses as a kid that would stick. And having a dad that was a pastor, my parents they never forced us to do anything, but we would read scripture, and we'd read it as a family. And I think all my brothers and sisters do the same thing. We spend time in our Bible. It's a part of our life because it was ingrained into us at a young age.
Yeah.
Proverbs says, train up a child in the way they'll go, and when they're old, they won't depart from it. And so I think there's an aspect of that to whoever I see it with my daughters, with my girls. We'll do memory verses, and we'll read stories, and we'll do Bible stories at night before they go to bed. So I do believe that's important. However, my parents' faith is not my faith. My parents' faith is not what's going to get me into heaven.
Perfect.
My dad's faith wasn't my mom's faith. My mom's faith wasn't her kids' faith. So we have our own faith in the person of Jesus Christ. So I do believe that you can't always lean on your mom and dad if they were Christians or if they were not Christians. You're going to answer for what you do. And what does that mean? When I say what you do, how do I transact with the person of Jesus Christ? Faith is not a work. I can have faith in the person of Jesus Christ and accept what he's done for me on the cross, or I can do what Pilate does, wash my hands and believe the lie that I'm innocent of this man's blood. So there is an aspect of you that is involved. Does that make sense?
There is.
Now, me being involved for just who I am, and everybody's different. Some people might write it down. Some people might memorize it. I would go on deployments, and I would just write because I could memorize better writing. I'd start in Genesis you're on a 6-month deployment to Afghanistan. If we weren't opping, we're watching movies. I can quote movies and all that, and my wife drives her crazy. How do you know these movies? We watch tons of movies on deployment. And I would write just word for word, just what I was reading in my Bible. My granddaddy told me, he said, hey, read a Proverbs a day and it will make you wise. And I gave him, before one deployment, I gave him a Bible I had when I was in high school. I think the only thing I ever read was Proverbs. I'd read Proverbs a day and I would annotate it. And I gave it to him, and literally it was all marked up. And I said, I read a Proverbs a day. And he told me, he said, well, that's good, son, but I didn't mean only read Proverbs. You ought to read the rest of the Bible as well. So there's that aspect too. We pick the things that we like. And I've learned that over time. And now I do the Bible throughout the year in about 10 months. It takes me to go through the whole Bible.
Yeah. So let me ask you,
it sticks.
It does stick. Yeah. And obviously I would say you definitely had some intentionality attached to it too. But let me ask you this. Has there been a time, and I'm really chasing a rabbit right now, but has there been a time, because God's word never comes back void.
Yeah.
Has there been a time when you were in the thick of something and a verse came back to you that you hadn't even thought of for a while, and it just like, wow, I needed to ponder on that for a minute?
Yeah. So I don't know if it's one that I'd never thought of for a while. I'll use a training example. A lot of times I hate Bud's training examples because a lot of guys that just tell Bud stories is because they have no war stories. That's what I've learned. They've never killed anybody or, actually been in combat. The training stories I'm not big on, but this is one where this would apply, I guess. There was a Master Chief, and I believe his name was Guild, Master Chief Guild, if I remember right. I'm probably getting it wrong. I could text somebody and see. But either way, he was doing a program. He was part of a program where he would mentor Bud students as they were going through. They were trying to get numbers up because training was pretty much the same across the board. Standard the same. The percentage was the same. They increased Bud's classes. We had 366 start with ours in class 264, and 32 actually graduated SQT and got a Trident, right? So, you're looking at less than 10% by the time you get selected to go to a SEAL team. And then once you get there, now you've got, sniper school. We lost 60%, 40% of us graduated and became snipers. And these are all SEALs, right? So we lost 60% in sniper school that had to go back to a team and didn't get sniper quad. You lose, like Green Team, selection for development group, what everybody refers to as SEAL Team 6, Special Mission Unit. Those are all SEALs. A lot of them good dudes, but you'll also lose 60% of those, and 40% of those guys will become Special Mission Unit SEALs. So there's always a selection process where there's an attrition rate. Make sense? And they're trying.
Well, there should be.
As it should be. If it was
easy, everybody do it, right?
Exactly right. But what they're doing is they're trying to increase those numbers because we need more SEALs, we need more snipers, we need more guys screening for Special Mission Unit. Right. Because of the way the war was going at the time. This is 2006, and he was going through Buds with us, and he would meet with students, and he would say, "Hey guys, look, this is what people do." He would go to the NFL, go all over the place, and figure out what mindset things, and all kinds of stuff. He'd bring it back and try to present it. And he said, every warrior across, the all of history, all of the planet, all of history, had a mantra. They had something they held to, something they leaned on, whether it was their belief system in a God, whether it was their family, whether it was whatever it is as a mantra. And I'm some dumb redneck kid from Alabama, 19 years old. I didn't know what a mantra was. And he said, what's that one thing that you can hold to that will help you make it through this process? Because if you can hold to something else besides the pain that you're going through, the distress of, hypothermia, cold water, getting beat and buzz, all that stuff. If you can hold to something else, you can make it through. But if you concentrate on what you're going through, you'll never make it. Right? That was kind of his. And I'm not saying I necessarily agree with all that, but that's what he was putting out. And so I prayed to God. I mean, I knew the one thing I held to was God. As a Christian, grew up as a Christian. Right? So got saved when I was 6 years old. Asked Jesus into my heart. Like, God, what could my mantra be? I think it has to be in you. You know, I'm here for my family, for me. I want to do this, but it's in you. What is it? It was 2 Corinthians 12:9, I believe, is the verse that says, it's when Paul is asking God, he's saying, hey, take away these thorns in my flesh, right? Whatever the issue was. People, some theologians say, believe it was a sight. Some people believe it was other things. But he said, take away these thorns in my flesh. He asked 3 times, and God 3 times said no. And then God says to Paul, he says, my strength, this is 2 Corinthians 12:9, my strength is sufficient for.
Oh, yeah, like the dude just said. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Welcome to hour number 3. Hour number 3 on, a Taco Tuesday. Hey, I got to tell you, I mean, the Cracker Barrel story is the gift that keeps on giving, right? I mean, I'm not trying to wear out the topic here, but new things keep popping in. Like, for instance, Libs of TikTok. If you're not familiar with Libs of TikTok, they've made a name for themselves by just showing you what the libs are doing. But Libs of TikTok just posted that Cracker Barrel has now scrubbed all of the woke LGBTQ propaganda off its website, and then it says they're panicking. And then it also, by the way, quotes Robbie Starbuck again, who says Cracker Barrel management is cracking. Today they removed the LGBTQ pride page off their Cracker Barrel website. The first 3 screenshots on his post here show what the page used to look like, and the 4th shows how it looks now. The backlash against them for going woke has them in a panic. Maybe so. Maybe so. But yeah, they had all this stuff on their website about bringing the front porch to pride, with rainbow colored rocking chairs and all this, it's like ridiculous. And then next thing you know, they're scrubbing it.
Completely out of touch with their base.
Completely out of touch with their base. Hey, by the way, in case y'all had not recalled, we do more here than just Rightside Radio. Rightside Media is the parent company. Rightside Radio is the actual, Rightside Media is a parent company. Rightside Radio is just one of our productions. We got podcasts, we got written work, we got all kinds of things. You can find a lot of it at our website, rightsidemedia.org, which, by the way, also has a shop tab on it where you can go buy merch like coffee mugs and T-shirts and hats. And oh, by the way, we still got some of those Ben Shot custom-made highball glasses that have the Rightside Media logo engraved on them. It says Bulletproof Influence with an embedded .308 round in the glass itself. Very cool, like a bulletproof glass. Get it? Anyway, check it all out at rightsidemedia.org. But one of the things that we also have in those podcasts is JP's got a new one out as of what? Yesterday. Today.
Yes.
And you dived into that Raja Jackson thing.
Oh, yes.
So before I even get into this dipper here, back me up on that. Remind the audience how that went down.
It's one of the craziest stories I've ever seen. As somebody who is a combat sports enjoyer I grew up watching professional wrestling, avid MMA fan as well. I don't know if I've seen anything like this story before of Rampage Jackson, who is a very famous former MMA fighter. His son is a amateur MMA fighter, but he's also been getting into the live streaming thing. He's become like a pretty popular live streamer. He's around my age, but so he goes to this local little wrestling event. It's not like WWE or AEW. It's like a little local, thing. And so he shows up and he's got a camera guy with him. So one of the wrestlers thinks that he's a part of the promotion. He's another wrestler. They're doing a promo event. So he decides to play along and breaks a little fake like dummy beer bottle over his head that's meant to break on purpose. He didn't hit him hard at all, but it broke on him. And then Raja Jackson didn't appreciate that. Obviously, I don't blame him. But then later the guy apologizes to him on camera, says, I didn't realize you weren't a part of this thing, my bad, whatever. But then they goes, well, we're going to work it in though. You're going to show up later tonight and you're going to come into the ring during the match, take me down and do a bunch of fake punches on me. It's going to be a part of the gig. So it goes on.
So staged. They were going to stage something.
Staged. He was going to come in and fake punch him, the whole thing was going to be staged. But there's actually part of the live stream kept going during this whole thing, continuous from that happening to the event. And there was actually another wrestler before the event telling him that he needs to go in and get his receipt, which in wrestling means, get back at somebody. But a receipt is like, you may ding him like once, kind of, and that's really it. It's not what he ended up doing. So
no, it was awful. I saw it.
Go to the event, and before the event on the stream, Raja's telling his fans, "Man, I'm gonna get him. I'm gonna beat him up real good. Y'all just wait and see. I'm not gonna mess around. I'm not gonna play around with it." Comes his time to come into the ring and do what his stage is supposed to do, and instead of just taking him down, doing a bunch of fake punches, he double legs him, picks him up over his head, slams him on the ring. Which, by the way, those wrestling rings are like wood, they're not soft.
No.
The guy gets knocked out as he makes contact with the ring, and then Raja Jackson proceeds to wail on him with about 20 or so unanswered punches to his face, full-fledged, not fake punches, like actual real punches to his unconscious head, and his head is just bouncing off of the ring. And eventually other wrestlers came in and realized what was going on and pulled him off of him. But
he wasn't stopping, which was what's crazy.
No.
It's like, dude, you got in a lick and then you raise your hands in there and you walk away like you're a champion. You didn't mean to hurt him. No, he was like not stopping.
If nobody would have pulled him off, he probably would have killed him.
You're not being overly dramatic there.
No.
I saw the video. I watched it and I thought, the guy's unconscious and you're still beating the crap out of him.
Yeah.
Like wailing to the face.
And
so does the guy have traumatic brain injury now? Is he in ICU?
He's still in critical care right now. He's in stable condition, but he's still in critical care right now. LAPD is currently investigating the situation, but there's also apparently the Knock X, I think is the name of the promotion. Apparently, there's screenshots of a group text where the owner was telling the wrestlers not to cooperate in the investigation.
Not to cooperate.
Yeah, it's like
don't say nothing.
If the police ask you something, do not talk to them. Talk to us first. It's like, why? That's your guy that was put in that situation. And there's a lot of people saying too that this thing was a work. It was a work for him to go in the first place. I don't think it'd be a work like scripted. Like the whole thing was scripted. Like this was all part of the script. No, I don't. I think a guy going into critical care maybe a bit, maybe a little bit past the script. I don't know.
Accidents happen, but after the first punch, it was no longer an accident.
No, and
And there were like 20 punches, weren't there?
Oh, it was just about 20 punches, yeah.
And I saw it. It was like it wasn't like getting one in. It was like drawing back and hitting his face as hard as he could while the guy was laying there unconscious.
Oh yeah, his head was bouncing off of the mat like over and over and over and over.
God
Apparently,
almighty.
He was choking on his own blood while he was in. Like it's an awful, awful story. This guy too is a former veteran who apparently was wrestling to help him get over his PTSD and war. It's just an awful story all around.
All right, so what's your consensus then? Is Raja Jackson going to jail? I mean, I think at the very least there's a lawsuit. Oh, by the way, the video kept streaming, right?
Oh yeah, the video kept streaming until after the event. Like Raja is on camera after the event, leaving the stadium or whatever is being held at, talking about how he's not gonna let people mess with him. He's tired of people joking around with him. Pretty much trying to show his viewers he's some big bad tough guy. You just knocked out a veteran that you pretty much like sucker punched a veteran.
And then you continued to pound on a guy who was unconscious.
Yes, and yeah, so the stream kept going for about 20 minutes or so after the event. But if you're asking if I think something's going to happen, unfortunately, I don't know, because if the wrestlers and the promotion's not willing to cooperate with police in the investigation, I don't know. I mean, my hopes aren't that high that something's actually going to happen. But Raja should be arrested 100%.
Is Raja Jackson? Is he got money?
His dad has money. I don't know. His dad was actually on live stream with somebody else.
I'm telling you right now, there are lawyers lining up outside that ICU to sign that guy up for a lawsuit.
Oh yeah, I mean, and his dad was actually on live stream with somebody else when it happened and got his live reaction. And of course, he kind of stuck up for his son a little bit. But I don't know how much Rampage would be willing to. I'm sure he would help him if Raja got sued. He would help him. But no, it's just an awful story.
Wow. All right. So your new podcast just came out with all that, right?
It did. Yes. You can go to Rightside Media's X page. You can also go to the YouTube channel, Rightside_media, and go check it out.
That's madness. That's crazy. All right. Wow. I just had to get that in there because I saw that video and I realized you'd done your podcast on it and I wanted to touch base on that. That is just, okay. That is absolute madness. All right. We're taking a break right now. We're coming right back, jumping into Dipper number 3, military minded. I got some information here that's pretty interesting. Like, are Trump and Pete Hegseth talking about renaming the DOD? Are they? I'll tell you about it. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back.
My grace is sufficient for you. My strength is made perfect in your weakness. And I thought, that's it. And so that is a scripture that the Lord gave me in that time that I really didn't even, I'm sure I'd read it before, but I was a young kid. It's not like it was just brought up to my mind. I remember specifically reading that as I'm praying, reading that in a Bible, in my study Bible, and being in 2 Corinthians, and that scripture stuck out at me. And so that's what all right, God, your grace is sufficient for me. Your strength will be made perfect in my weakness. And that's in that book. Buds wasn't that hard as far as a physical standard. Like you could pass, I could probably even now at 40 years old pass most of the standards. I can still do the O course. I could probably do first and maybe second phase 4-mile time run times. I could probably still do the swim. It's not actually that hard. It's the continuation of it through injury, through constant work that makes it so hard. They make you bad at things that you are often good at. That's why so many athletes struggle with it. So anyway, that's probably the best example I can give of a scripture that
that's
I
a
held
good one.
to.
And I had when I was my first tour downrange when I was mobbing out of Bragg, we had some SEER instructors that spent time with us, and I'll never forget. And I've actually talked about this before. I don't even remember what all they told me. I don't remember how to do my search and rescue dot, but I probably could now. But the reality is, one thing that stuck out with me was he said at one point he like just stopped in the middle of it, like it was an unplanned moment, and he goes, "Hey, let me just say, if you don't already have something bigger than yourself that you believe in, you better get it right now before you go downrange, because if they ever take you, you better have something to hang on to that's more than you."
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And for me, that was my faith.
Yeah.
And for me, that was mine in downrange was Psalm 91, the soldier psalm they call it.
That was my wife's on my first deployment.
And my wife's the one who gave it to me.
Okay.
I don't think I even knew Psalm 91 until she gave it to me.
No, I didn't. My wife can quote it word for word still.
Absolutely.
We were married. How old was she? I think I was 21. I might have been 22, and she was 19 when we got married. And we got married, and 2 months later, I rolled to Afghanistan, and it was a great deployment. Man, it was the Wild West. We're killing everybody we came in contact with. Those bad guys. It was what you trained for. It's what you desired. It's what you were going to do. It was great. Now hindsight being 2020, it's like, should we have even really been there? Now knowing what we've done, or at least seeing how they pulled out of Afghanistan. And but at the time, man, it's what you wanted to do as a young SEAL. And my wife, though, she knew that. She knew that what we were going into, what we were doing, and she prayed Psalm 91 every day. That was her verse.
Charlene did the same. My wife did the exact same thing. You look at my notes. That's a perfect segue. Let me do this.
No, I can't even read your notes.
Tell me. I can read I'm the only one who can read my notes.
That's important. That's the only thing that matters.
So tell me about your wife. So y'all met, and she's a team wife, obviously.
Yeah, she is.
Which is not easy.
No. Yeah, she. We met. We were just talking about this the other day. I think she's 3.5 years younger than I am. I'm 39 right now, and she's about to turn 36. So we met. She was 18, and I was whatever that would have been, 21 into 22. I had just I'd been a SEAL for like 6 months, maybe 8 months, right? I did my first.
So you were still a SEAL pup. I
was a SEAL pup, man. I was a new guy. I did my first, deployment, or what they would count as a deployment. I checked in at the end of an Iraq deployment, stayed in Germany doing working with the Group 1 leadership as they're doing a pass-through. Decompression stop is what they called it for the whole team. So I stayed there as the whole team rotated through from Iraq. And I can't remember where we went into in Iraq, but I went with a master chief. Me and just a master chief went into Iraq. We had to check in and do something, and I can't remember what we did, and then we flew over to Germany. It was only there for a week. And that's one point I like to make in these podcasts. Guys or anytime I talk, guys will be like, oh, yeah, Iraq, Afghanistan, or whatever we are. Just because I've got an Iraqi ribbon, Operation Iraqi Freedom or whatever. You got guys that have that stuff all the time. They got their combat action badge or their combat action ribbon or whatever. Just because you were in a country where combat was happening doesn't mean that you were in combat, right? And so there is a lot of that goes on. Just because I was in Iraq doesn't mean that I was doing what the boys were doing in Salter City, that deployment. I checked in at the tail end of that, and then I went to Germany. So just because you're a part of it doesn't mean you were doing it. And there is a misconception with that a lot of times. One, with how people receive it, but also, two, with maybe even how guys present it sometimes. So there's probably I don't know. I like to make sure that that's understood. went to Germany, went to get back from that, and was selected to go to sniper school as a new guy, which is very rare. And so I went to sniper school, and that was when I met my wife. And
you met her at sniper school?
Yeah. So before I went to sniper school.
And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Just saving the world, one soundbite at a time. I got a bunch of text messages coming in. I'll get some of those here more in a minute. 833-687-4448. That's 833-68 right. Text it, call it. That's where we are. Military minded. That's Dipper number 3. So there's a whole ton of y'all out there in this audience that are military-minded. I know it for a fact. There's a bunch of you right now that are green suiters yourselves, still at Redstone Arsenal and Anniston Army Depot and Maxwell Air Force Base, here within the sound of my voice. But I also know there's a bunch of y'all that are, DOD civilians, GS government workers out there at the post. You've also got defense contractors. You got a ton of veterans in this audience. All it's said and done, let's talk some military-mindedness. I got a piece here I pulled off the Army Times. Dateline yesterday. Trump and Hegseth float renaming the Defense Department to, wait for it, the Department of War. Interesting. Now, this is what it used to be called. It was the War Department back when it started. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said plans to rename his agency as the Department of War are, quote, coming soon, but it remains unclear whether the executive branch can make such a move without congressional permission. That's interesting. So during a White House press event on Monday, Hegseth spoke about the deployment of National Guard troops throughout Washington, D.C. along the U.S. southern border and responded to remarks by complimenting service members. But then he said, Department of Defense. I don't want it to be a defense thing. We want defense, but we want offense too. He said it used to be called the Department of War. It had a much stronger sound. And as you know, we won World War I, we won World War II, we won everything. So yeah, the Department of War was the moniker for the military bureaucracy from like 1789 to 1947. In 1949, they changed it to the Department of Defense. It came as a result of the National Security Act of 1947. So in other words, it was congressionally mandated. At the very least, they established something that then was named. And I don't know if their legislation gave the name, like it will for henceforth be called, or if that just was what they were. Anyway, bottom line is they're thinking about renaming it the Department of War. That's if you look at history, that's where it was. Thoughts on this? I don't know. What do you think?
It sounds cool. I think this is just one of those things, though, he's doing on purpose to throw people up in arms. Like he knows it's going to get a reaction out of people.
Well, there is that. he's known to do that periodically. Yes.
Just a little bit, yeah.
Just once in a while. Army Times also has a piece. I don't know if you've seen it, but we've got a lot of troops that have been deployed to the southern border. National Guard especially, but active duty have also been down there. Texas has been at it for a while with Operation Lone Star. But the Pentagon just announced a new military decoration, in other words, a medal for participation in border efforts, except it's not going to be new. They're reviving an old one. So what, about 108 years ago, we were on the Mexican border because of Pancho Villa raiding U.S. towns across the border. And troops, even from Alabama's National Guard 167th Infantry, were all sent down there to basically go into what was known as the Mexican border incursions. And they were crossing into Mexico, and they were scrapping it out with Pancho Villa's rebels. But now they're talking about bringing back that Mexican border defense medal. It's actually still in the inventory. They just haven't used it in so long. Well, now they're gonna. So military personnel do qualify for the medal if they have been permanently assigned, attached, or detailed to a unit that deployed in support of military operations supporting Customs and Border Patrol within 100 nautical miles of the U.S.-Mexican border after January 20th. That's okay. So, there's a lot of those I was there medals. And so you have different kinds of, for those who don't know already, they have different kinds of decorations. You have decorations for valor, you have decorations for service, and you have decorations really technically for participation. Like the Global War on Terror medal, the Guadam. There's called the Global War on Terror Expeditionary Medal. So if you deployed as part of basically if you went somewhere because of it, you got the Guadam. If you were activated for duty and you didn't deploy, you got the GWOTSM, the GWOTSM, the service medal. Now we're looking at the Mexican Border Defense Medal. I find that fascinating. I think it's also necessary. I'm good with that. I got no problems. Now, pray tell, what other things are happening? Well, it's not just all sunshine and roses. It's not. Army Times reports as of 3 days ago, Secretary of Defense Hegseth fires the heads of the Defense Intelligence Agency and several key Navy leaders. This is like big doings, y'all. You've got the Defense Intelligence Agency, which I believe is a lieutenant general, isn't it? Yeah, lieutenant general, 3-star, Jeffrey Cruz will no longer serve as the head of the DIA. Why? Because in the wake of the Iran bombings, remember we bombed the nuclear facilities, which, by the way, that kind of went quiet, didn't it? The nuclear facilities were bombed by U.S. forces. There was a leaked assessment of whether or not the bombing was effective. Well, it came out of Lieutenant General Cruz's headquarters. They have tracked down the source, and so they're basically saying, hey, General, the buck stops with you. You may not have been the one who leaked it, but your organization sure did. He is gone. Shpow. Gone. You're fired. Hegseth also fired Vice Admiral Nancy LaCour, Chief of the Navy Reserve, as well as Rear Admiral Milton Sands, a Navy SEAL career officer who was the commander of Naval Special Warfare. Those are big commands, y'all. I mean, this is a Rear Admiral, a Vice Admiral, and a 3-star general who all lost their jobs. What does this signal? To me, it signals that they are not going to allow people just to rock on when bad things are happening under their command. They're asking for there to be accountability again. You haven't seen that in a few years, have you? You haven't seen it such that a 3-star can lose their job because something untoward happened in the middle of their command. What you saw in the past was people who wouldn't get a vaccination, or people who didn't like the idea that transgenders could be in the barracks, or people who didn't like the idea of, lowering the standards to make sure we had diversity in the ranks. You could lose your job for those during the Biden administration, but lose your job because your job went badly? Nope, that's new. We're back to it. So yeah, that comes here in the last few days. Do I have time for one more? I do. Let me do this. Let me look at my stack real quick. I got some stuff here. We just had a situation in which, here it is. As I rattle the paper. Federal News Network. Hey, all you GS civilians, listen up. You want to serve on the border? You can. Right now, the Pentagon is asking civilian employees to sign up for a volunteer force to support operations on the southern border. This came out just in the last few days. Federal News Network has it. Secretary of Defense has authorized DoD civilian employees to participate in being detailed to the Department of Homeland Security. Selected department employees will have a chance to offer critical support to ICE and U.S. Customs and Border Patrol as they fulfill the president's intent to secure the border. So what will you be doing? Will it be everything from data entry, operational planning, processing? You're not going to be put out there on the line doing the arrests or the kicking in the doors, but you're going to be, they need people to do things like targeting and intel analysis, firearms maintenance, corrections, detention, prisoner processing, language skills like linguistics, being an interpreter, case processing, all of it. You want to be a DoD civilian and go get on down there and help the cause? Right now, the DoD is saying they'll pay you to go ahead and volunteer to go. That's interesting. I got more. Military-minded Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Bring all the weapons that we were bringing back from. They landed in. They landed at one of the. It might have been Fort Bragg, but they landed at one of the Army bases. I think it was Fort Bragg. They landed there. Me and another guy, a buddy of mine, I won't say his name. He's at Red Squadron still, or he was at Red Squadron. He might be. He was an instructor at Green Team not too long ago, so he might still be over there. But me and him flew out to pick up those weapons for SEAL Team 3 and escort them back to the West Coast because they landed in at the East Coast at one of the Army bases. And when we flew out to pick those up, they let him fly back with them by themselves because I didn't go on leave when I graduated SQT. I checked in pretty much immediately I was at the team for like a week, painting bathrooms and doing stupid stuff, with a couple of guys. And then we went to the tail end of the Iraq deployment into that Germany thing. So they said, hey, since you didn't get to go on leave, fly over here with Chris and y'all pick up those weapons, account for them. I helped him inventory them. He can fly back with them by himself because we're going to have somebody meet him in San Diego, and you can drive home. My mom and dad came and picked me up in North Carolina. They drove to North Carolina, picked me up, and drove me home, and I stayed at home for 7 days. They didn't even charge me any leave for it. They just let me go.
So she was back here. She's an Alabama girl?
She's an Alabama girl.
Okay.
And I met her during that time. My brother and his girlfriend at the time, now wife, somehow connected us, and her family went to my dad's church where he pastored at. We met up, went on one date, and then we just started talking, and somehow the Lord made it happen. 6 or 7 months later, I graduate sniper school, have a big family shoot, and we had been dating. I'd already gotten a ring. I called her. Her dad came up with my dad and brothers because they let him shoot all the sniper guns. They do like a family day. None of the girls came up. It was just my dad, my brothers, and Lauren's dad. And we're fishing in my buddy's pond up there that I'm still friends with, Troy Dehart. And I said, hey, man, to Greg, my father-in-law, I said, hey, man, I'm going to ask Lauren to marry me if it's okay with you. And he's like, oh, man, you better ask her. Just went back to fishing. That was it. So that's he was
in his happy place. Why bother him with that?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And then about 8 months later, we got married before
awesome.
I deployed to Afghanistan. So, yeah, she was with me from the start, really, of my SEAL career, almost the start.
Team wife's not easy. I said that a minute ago. My wife, I've said that she's a rock. I mean, I've got multiple deployments, and she held down the fort. And at the same time, I never came home not knowing who my kids' teachers were, what their grades were, what the latest ins and outs of life were, because she made everything just seem so relevant and updated me constantly.
Man. Yeah, dude,
but she also kept all the bills paid and the yard mowed and the whole thing, man. I mean, but at the same time, you were active duty in the teams. That's a high up tempo life. How was it for her and for the marriage?
I mean, it was good. I mean, she misses the teams a lot of times. She liked because her parents were divorced, and so she bounced around between her grandparents, her mom, her dad, and she's got a good family and had a good life. Close with her brother. Her brother's a good dude. Works for Alabama Power, pretty high up in Alabama Power. But Trent's a good guy, and we have close relationship with him. There's never bad relationship with anybody in the family, or at least on her side. She just wasn't settled. So the team guy life for her and team wife life was actually pretty good because she was used to that. Going to be at mom's, going to be at dad's, going with my grandparents. She was used to kind of that bouncing around, and so she would do that, and
God built her for it.
Kind of. It's almost like he kind of knew what she was going to go into, and she would have never thought she'd be that. Now she hates it when I deploy. Hates it when I go somewhere. She pitches a fit if I ever say I'm going overseas to do anything. Right? She doesn't. But she was actually pretty good at it. She misses the community team guy life. She does miss that. She even talks about it now. We didn't have kids while I was in the teams. That was one thing. She did not want to have.
Hey, all you Rightside ruffians out there, you are listening to Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. Man, covering down on some major ground across the southeast U.S. of A. Y'all, I'm talking about this show. This one goes from Huntsville back on over to Chattanooga. I'm talking about from Tuscaloosa back on over to Gadsden. I mean, all the way down to that loveliest little village on the plains that we call Auburn, straight across the line from there to what we call, once again, Fort Benning. And then big old patches of North Georgia and Mississippi all thrown in just for good measure. And that is just the radio. And then, oh, by the way, there's all y'all out there in the whole wide world going to the World Wide Web and live streaming the show every single day from all points. I mean, from everywhere, live streaming on places like X, Facebook, Rumble, YouTube, and our website, rightsidemedia.org. And then, oh, by the way, there's all y'all to do with the podcasting. I mean, like catching it after the fact, catching up on things you missed. Podcasters. We love you, all of you, every one of you, wherever you catch this show. I say all that just because I want to every show recognize at least 2 or 3 times that you guys mean the world to us, and we know where you are. We can see the numbers, and thank you very much. Hey, by the way, I'm looking forward to tonight. I hope some of y'all will be there. If you are, catch me and say hey. But I'm headed down to Birmingham immediately after the show. The lovely Charlene and I are attending the Eagle Forum annual dinner. I will be the MC tonight at the event. Hundreds of people usually there. It's at the club in Birmingham. But yeah, Dr. Carol Swain, who was on the show the other day, had a great interview with her. She's a nationally renowned speaker. Just got an amazing personal story of her own. I see her on Fox News and stuff all the time. But Dr. Carol Swain is the keynote speaker, and I'll be proud to introduce her tonight in person. So yeah, should be a good night. I'll tell you more about it tomorrow. If you're there, catch me and say hey. Let me go back into this military minded here. So this is real deal deployments here. Keep in mind that, one of the Trump administration's pillars of domestic policy and foreign policy is cracking down on drug cartels. And earlier this year, I believe it has to be, he just came in office. Earlier this year, the Trump administration designated Mexico's Sinaloa cartel, Venezuela's Tren de Aragua, and several other organizations as terrorist organizations. They're not just drug cartels. They're not just criminals now. They're actually named as terrorist organizations. That changes the entire dynamic. What that basically does is it opens up the ability for military action to be taken against these cartels and their operations. It also means they can seize assets and they can freeze them where they sit in banks. Well, right now we have amphibious squadron that's actually moving down towards Venezuela. That's interesting. Story here on military.com, dateline 4 days ago. The U.S. added a powerful amphibious squadron to a previously revealed deployment of 3 Navy destroyers that are nearing Venezuela as part of a counter-narcotics operation. Says 2 officials familiar with the deployment who spoke on condition of anonymity. That is so lame. Told the Reuters news agency that 3 Navy warships, the USS San Antonio, Iwo Jima, and Fort Lauderdale, could be stationed off the coast of Venezuela as early as Sunday. Together, the ships are carrying 4,500 service members and 2,200 strong Marine Expeditionary Unit. So they got a MEU intact, and they're bringing now the amphibious warships in place. I don't think you're going to wind up seeing like a coastal invasion, but I think it's very interesting that you've got Maduro, the head of Venezuela, the president of Venezuela, who has now been designated as potentially one of the leaders of one of the cartels that's been designated. The president of Venezuela is believed to be in charge or a part of what's known as the Cartel of the Suns, Cartel de la Sol. And the administration even raised a bounty for Maduro's capture to an unprecedented $50 million. And now we have a MEU, a Marine Expeditionary Unit, an entire amphibious task force moving off the shores of Venezuela. I don't know what to expect. Show of force, maybe? I don't know. Freedom of passage? I don't know. Are we going to go in there and seize Maduro? I don't know. All I'm saying is it looking pretty wild right now.
$50 million? We could try.
Me and you.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah. I mean, hey.
All right. If you hear a repeat show tomorrow,
yeah,
because we're busy.
I mean, what's the worst that could happen? I mean, we just get arrested and spend the rest of our lives in Venezuela, I guess.
There is that.
Yeah.
Hey, military.com had another story that I didn't see. I think it flew under the radar. Dateline 4 days ago. Last week, a San Diego federal jury convicted a Chinese-born U.S. Navy sailor for espionage. Did you hear this? Had you heard that story? I
saw the headline. That's all.
Okay. Jun Chao Wei, who goes by the nickname Patrick. Okay.
Yes.
Why'd you get Jun Chao would be like Johnny, right? Or
it's
Jimmy.
It's just Patrick.
Jun Chao. Where'd you get Patrick? I don't know. I like it.
The Star, like the Star. Patrick the Star.
Now you're just making crap up. Jun Chao Wei, 25 years old, 6 counts of conspiracy, espionage, and charges related to unlawfully sending defense information to a foreign government. It appears he actually did sell intel to a Chinese intel officer who recruited him. It was discovered through counterintelligence. He was paid $12,000 in exchange for technical manuals and information about weapons, defense, and propulsion systems for the USS Essex and other Navy ships. That's wow. So he was born in China, which is interesting. So he was born in China, immigrated to the United States lawfully. He was a convicted Chinese-born U.S. Navy sailor. So yeah, that just happened. Whew. Keep it where it's supposed to be, y'all. Just keep it where it's supposed to be. Last one I got is, listen, all of y'all out there at Redstone, a bunch of defense contractors I know. I know people that are working in some of the drone systems. And I'll tell you what, between drones and AI, there's a future. If your company is working drones or AI or counter operations, there's a future. What's also interesting, and I find this to be fascinating, to me it is, because my family has a long history in Army acquisitions and in weapons development and that kind of stuff. Right now, the southern border is becoming a test bed for new systems. Not necessarily weapons, but you've got drones, drone busters, and these new things called the IVAS headsets. Have you seen these?
I have not.
Okay, it looks like you're wearing a large, picture a ski mask, but it's blacked out and it has 4 lenses on it. The IVAS. IVAS stands for, I've forgotten what now. It didn't matter. But it's a futuristic headset.
Integrated Visual Augmentation System.
I just saw it right as you said that. Thank you very much. Integrated visual. So this is at the southern border. They're using this right now, or they're test bedding it. They're getting all their beta testing done. They've tried it before. It was not very successful. Microsoft developed it, spent a ton of money on it, but it was like too heavy. It was giving soldiers headaches. It was giving soldiers way too much information to process in their eyes. But it does allow for, if you can handle the heads-up displays. Oh, I see you got it on the screen. Thank you very much. If you can handle wearing the heads-up display, you get communications in real time. You get targeting. You get all kinds of things right there in your headset. I mean, we're talking about, this is like stormtrooper stuff from Star Wars. Just saying.
Call of Duty stuff.
Where's the lightsaber? That's what I want to know.
They're in production.
By the way, why did stormtroopers wear the armor? Because nothing ever seemed to help.
I don't know. Not a Star Wars guy myself. I've actually only seen one Star Wars movie. So
which one?
Whichever one came out in like 2015. I went with my middle school girlfriend to watch
Rogue
that one.
One?
Yes. And apparently it was like one of the worst ones.
No, so. Rogue One was a great movie.
I'm not sure if it was that one or not, but it was whichever one came out in that time period. Yeah. That's the only one I've seen.
Was your girlfriend's idea?
Probably. Yeah.
Come on.
I think it was.
Anyway, all that to say, the Chinese border is now more than just a place where the military is deploying. Savvy defense contractors are using it as a place to beta test their systems. All right, listen, we got plenty on tap. You want to text in? I'd love to hear from you. 833-687-4448. Couple of quick ones before we go. Reaching back to the discussion, I believe, about Cracker Barrel. John from Brownsboro says, Coke hired a team of psychologists to answer the phones and find out why people were so upset when they did New Coke. They determined the reaction of customers was akin to the grieving of the loss of a loved one. Interesting. Very interesting. You know what? I believe that. Okay. Dave from Athens says, we still need the Ruffians to join the Yahoo College Football Pick'em League. He said, password is Rightside Radio, all lower caps. The group ID is 1977. Scoring begins this week. Deadline is 5 minutes before each game. Did you join one of them?
I had to go, but I had to create a Yahoo account to do it. Is that the case? I don't know.
Don't know.
Whenever I tried to, it made me do a Yahoo account, and but I have to go back and try again.
Graham from Meridianville says, I read Pete Hegseth's book. He talked about going back to the Department of War in the book. Nice. I did not know that. Dorothy from Elkmont says, Raja Jackson should be banned from fighting sports. Looked like pure hate what he did. Hate crime. Oh, okay.
He should at least have some punishment. Anger management classes, maybe some charges.
I say sue him too and take whatever money he got off the live stream. Matt from Madison says, what's up with these Navy boys? Loose lips sink ships. I can't answer that. All I know is it was their turn to have a bad guy in the ranks. Michael from Moores Mill, says, you'd think that JP would appreciate Star Wars given the last 4 years, avoiding the Empire and all that. You get it?
What's he trying to say?
The Empire. the evil empire, the Biden administration.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Dun, dun, dun.
I didn't even know the empire was evil. So, well, actually, yeah, that makes sense. The Empire Strikes Back, bad guys back. Yeah.
You missed the whole thing, man.
I did.
Take me to a break, JP. Take me to a break right now. Last break of the day here on a Taco Tuesday. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back.
Teams, because she got to know so many women. We lost dudes all the time, so I say all the time. We lost dudes regularly, and she went to those funerals with me. We went to funerals and, put your trident in a coffin, and she knew their wives, and some of these guys had kids, and now daddy's gone from it. And she just didn't. For her, of course, we were married. She was 19 at the time. I think I was 22 into 23, around that age range, and we didn't. She just did not want to have kids in that life with me deploying. That was probably the biggest thing, is it being hard to start a family.
Did you have connectivity? I mean, it's crazy, modern deployments. My granddad went to World War II. He was a glider rider.
Didn't talk to anybody.
And he was gone for 3 years.
Yeah.
And I came home when it was done. But did you have connectivity? Could you call home, email, that kind of thing?
We did, whenever somebody would die in country, that, which happened pretty regularly, you go River City, and not be able to talk for – a week or 3 until the next of kin was notified.
Right.
I mean, we would still talk some, you call out on sat phone, different things, but generally speaking, it was hit or miss, but we did have connectivity. We were on a fob one day, and I was talking to her on the phone on a green line, and, a little bit of a delay. We're just talking, and all of a sudden here, a mortar came in, or a, recoilless rifle rocket came in and hit, and it was like, hey, I got to go. We got to get to our fighting positions, and she's like, what was that? And he just hung up the phone and bounced, So she did deal with stuff like that she talks about now that she didn't like at the time.
My wife tells the exact same story. I'm sitting on the roof of our safe house in Afghanistan, where my team was located, on a sat phone talking to her, and all of a sudden something went cha-choom.
Yeah.
And she goes, what was that? I said, nothing, baby. I'm looking at one of my guys going, what was that?
Yeah, got to go.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We did have we had the same connectivity, and we had the same comms blackouts if we lost somebody. And we had I'll never forget, I had a special phone because I did a lot of interconnectivity on my second tour in Baghdad, and we had Sadr City and parts of Rasafa district. And
where were you in Sadr City?
04.
Okay, all right, yes.
But and it was a mess.
Oh,
we lost
man.
some good guys, but we had one particular day where it was a coordinated ambush. We had IED strikes followed by small arms and RPGs that took out 3 of our guys. And so the comms blackout went in. Well, my wife, the phone that I carried had the ability to call in. And I told her, I said, don't ever call in, hon, unless it's an emergency. If I call you, we'll talk, but don't call me. But if it's an emergency, just know you can. Well, she called that night because she's literally watching the news, looking at patches on the shoulder, and realizing, oh my gosh, I think I know where that is. And I think that's Phil's unit. And she called me that night. Oh, it was a rough one.
Yeah.
But it's hard for the wife sometimes being back home.
Yeah. Well, you got to think you're the one. You're not in the know. You're not in the know. But you're together. It says that's why Scripture tells us that the man leaves his parents so the two can become one flesh. So you join and you become one flesh, and we're a family. We are, I still have my mom and dad, still respect my mom and dad, but now I am the headship of this, and she is part of that, and we're one flesh. And when you go on these deployments, these wartime deployments, you're pulled apart, and she's living in the unknown all the time. Now, what's going on, right? And you're doing it. So that takes a strong person, not just a strong woman, just a strong person in general. When I say person, because you got kids that deal with the same thing too. They're part of that unit, that family unit. I don't say team for family. My wife likes saying team, and I'm like, no, family's not a team. A family's a family, which in my opinion is different than a team. I was a team guy for my entire career. That's what they call us. That's our nicknames, team guys. I know what a team is like. A family's not like a team. It's even deeper. It's more. It's a deeper rooted thing than a team. And a team is pretty deep. We can agree on that. Your family is one level deeper, and that's why we're born into the family of Christ. We're part of God's family in the person of Jesus Christ. It's more than a team. We're not teamed up with Christ. We're in His family. And so I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it makes perfect sense. Let me ask you, let me segue off that, though. I'm going to chase a rabbit again. So
You're a team guy.
Yeah.
And now you got a family, and God saw fit to make sure you had all girls.
Oh yeah.
So you come from team guy, law enforcement, doing all the alpha male stuff.
Yeah.
And yet you go home and you are so outnumbered right now.
Yeah, man. Well, I got a buddy he's got daughters too. He said it just means I was man enough to blow the balls off of them. That's what he always says. So, sorry for the ladies that listen to this, but I always think it's funny. No, man, I wouldn't trade those girls for anything. I mean, it is different. You know, love my wife, have my wife, but those girls, you know.
How old are they roughly?
9, 6, and 3.
Awesome.
So yeah, we got 9, 6, and 3, and
girls are hard too.
They're hard.
You wait, man, they're gonna be teenagers.
What I've learned, I think, in my brothers have sons, and they also have daughters. So I got nieces and nephews. We have more girls than boys.
And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. Making common sense like a superpower. JT from Lacey Springs sent me a meme. He says this is the new marriage, and it shows Cracker Barrel holding hands with Bud Light. They have been consigned to the dustbin together. James from Arab says $50 million. Talking about the Maduro thing. $50 million. Time to put the band back together.
Hey, listen, they can't take up. Well, maybe they can, but they can't. I don't know. I don't know how much the Venezuela will. I mean, if we get all the ruffians together, surely.
Listen, we could make a small army.
Yeah, I mean, we could make a army.
It's been a while since I kicked a door, but I believe I can do it. John from Huntsville has the grades in. He says Phil gets an A double plus for his nearly perfect performance, which means today's winner is obviously the brilliant JP with a perfect A triple plus for his spot on comments and for mentioning the SpongeBob character Patrick Star. Is that what that was? I didn't know what you were talking about.
You didn't know Patrick Star?
I was looking at you with a blank stare. Didn't you see it?
Patrick the Starfish. Yeah. SpongeBob and Patrick, you know.
That's so silly.
It's the best cartoon ever. I figured you would know.
Somebody was smoking crack when they came up with that cartoon. I am going to the phones because somebody who's not smoking crack is Jeff from Indiana. Hey, buddy, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good, but come on, Phil, I'm even older than you, and I know about Patrick and Gary and Mr. Krabs and all a bunch.
Well, you keep up with all the wrong stuff then.
maybe you spent too much time in England. Who knows?
It's possible. Oh man, what's on your mind, brother? We talked about Cracker Barrel. We talked about Abbey Gate bombing. We talked about military stuff. What's on your thought process today?
Oh, the Cracker Barrel.
Oh, now.
How does a company that starts out basically as a gas station that had a good ideal and go from being a good just good food and old timey atmosphere to something like what we got today? It just don't make any sense.
Well, now I am talking to somebody right now who eats truck stop fish and pickled eggs. So I'm not sure you should be the one critiquing a restaurant.
I am a connoisseur of fine food, mind you.
Oh Lord, yeah, I don't know, man. I look at this thing. The whole thing is just a debacle. They have so stepped in it right now. They have just waffled themselves. It's awful.
Yeah, I mean, it's like if Bud Light would have kept Dylan Mulvaney at the top of the league here and everything. Next thing you know, the Clydesdales would have been replaced by pony play. The people dress up like horses pull the wagon.
Well, did you see the thing today where the Trump White House, where Trump actually issued a statement and suggested Cracker Barrel, you can get $1 billion worth of free advertising right now if you will hold a press conference and recant and go back to the old logo, and your people will love you for it. So what do you think about Trump doing that? But what do you think? You think they're going to do that?
Well, it's a matter of pride. They're promoting pride, but apparently they won't swallow the pride. And that's what they're going to have to do and reroute this company back to where it was before. And he's right. They're the most talked about thing in the United States market right now.
Yeah.
And they can either cut their own head off, or they can restore their dignity and go back to the way they was.
Well, as of yesterday, they've lost $143 million in share value right now. That's awful.
Yeah. How many restaurants would that build? You know,
a few.
Right off the top.
A few, but somebody else pointed out, I forget which one of our listeners pointed out, that's on top of the fact that they are spending $700 million on their rebranding and redesign of their restaurants.
Yeah, and I passed a few of the signs in Tennessee today that's got the new logo.
Oh, did you really? Wow, it's really happening, huh? It's not like it's being rumored; it's happening.
Not inspiring, I would say. It's just kind of a yellow sign with Cracker Barrel across it. You know, it doesn't impress me.
No, ain't no pop, ain't no character. It's like they went totally just plain vanilla, and you look at it and go, I think I could have had my neighbor's cat design that logo.
That they buried Uncle Herschel, and that was a draw.
Somebody else pointed out they got rid of the barrel and the cracker.
Yeah, they got rid of everything. They got rid of the brain, I think, is what has happened. Anything they had to do with intelligence.
No doubt. Well, we'll see how it plays out, but right now it just appears to me they have just like made a super duper mistake. Anyway,
who in the world hires these CEOs? I mean, where did these people? I mean, they're coming from these woke universities apparently, and then I guess they just continue the process. So we might be seeing a whole lot more of this, considering all the wokeness coming out of the universities right now.
I'm just wondering how long it's going to be before the shareholders buck up and say, all right, enough of this. We want new leadership and we want things changed, because they're the ones who are losing right now. I guarantee you her salary is not going down. It's all the shareholders' profits that are going down.
Yeah. She'd be gone in a heartbeat.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, brother, where are you at on the road right now?
I'm almost to Kentucky. Getting ready to cross the line here in about 5 minutes.
Wow, you did good today. All right. Well, be safe on the road. We'll talk at you tomorrow.
Have a good one, Phil.
See you, buddy.
See ya.
One last text here for the day, it looks like. Brad from Laredo, Tennessee says, it's very simple. The moment a company starts getting traded publicly, the investors work their way in and want to just make more money. Yes. That's the way it works. And then we got somebody else who doesn't identify themselves as Cracker Barrel's non-binary logo. But I don't. Oh, that's what it is. It's a non-binary logo. That cracks me up.
Makes sense. Hey, there's actually a Cracker Barrel like just up the road here. I don't know how far up the road. Maybe we ought to go and do like a
scout it,
see how it is, and if they've changed and rebranded their things, maybe we do like a man on the street video of, look what's happening at Cracker Barrel. Here's a first peek look.
I tell you what, you go and have a meal on me.
Oh, really?
And then report back. Go pick something that you would have loved before and see if it's as good now as it was before.
Yeah, maybe we need to check if the new menu is in effect at that Cracker Barrel.
Just don't have any mimosas while you're there.
Before we drive, yeah.
John from Harvest says the rebrand looks like Cracker Barrel had a back alley baby with a Dollar General.
Oh, gosh.
Wow. Wow.
It's a bit graphic.
All right, you guys, listen, I'm headed out of here momentarily to the Eagle Forum dinner tonight. Looking forward to it and planning on being the MC. Dr. Carol Swain is the keynote speaker. And by the way, Eagle Forum, if you're not familiar, does amazing conservative policy work and all over the nation. This is the Alabama chapter. But I will say it like I always say it. Y'all, there's more of us than there are of them. God is still on his throne. Y'all stay in the fight. We'll see you tomorrow.